Meyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Tried to force the play, and it's intercepted. DJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on 365 Sports, and hope you've had a really, really good day. And we will take you up until 6 o'clock. We have 3 hours. We will also, one of the interviews we did earlier, Brandon Rowe helped me record Tim Polasek. He's the head coach at North Dakota State. What a hell of a personality. He'll join us at around 5 o'clock today. We have something that Andrew Valade put together that if you were the Big 12 commissioner for a day, we'll have that later on. Joshua Perry, Big Ten Network, and Rachel Bachmann from the Wall Street Journal, plus much more. All right, guys, so here we go. You kind of get a feeling. We've been saying we can't wait till they start to play games. Well, they're not going to do that for another, month? But Kansas State, we back. A picture of their football stadium as they went back to working out. Their fall workouts officially began as they get ready for the game in Dublin, Ireland. Not Ohio, but Ireland. And then here's Iowa State, too, checked in for camp. They're arriving. Most schools will do that or programs over the weekend into next week, but there we are. That is the sign that the clock is ticking.
Yep. I hope they don't go to Dublin, Ohio or Dublin, Texas. They could go to Dublin, Texas and get Texas, that, off-brand Dr. Pepper. That's the way they used to make it. But, yeah, I'm just going to tell Iowa State and Kansas State fans, I hope you have a blast in Dublin, but one of you is going to leave thinking, why the hell did we agree to do this? Because it's going to make your whole life miserable. I didn't get to go to Dublin last year, and I was initially sad about that. But now I'm really happy that I didn't get to go and witness what was the beginning of the worst year of my life.
Well, it was the beginning of not quite the Nebraska started out with a loss, remember, to Northwestern. So we've had some bad memories. I think that's a cool trip. They also get a little bit of time in between when they play again, but that can wear you out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go travel and take a loss, but I'd rather be a guy who went to Ireland than didn't go to Ireland just because of the football outcome. So I think whoever goes out there is probably going to have a hell of a time no matter what the game looks like. Now, if it turns into like some slaughtering, then, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some boozed-up Cyclone or Cat fan that's like, I wish we wouldn't have done this. But I think for the most part, everybody who's put in the time and money to set this trip up is doing it for the reason of not just the outcome of a game, but for the experience. And I think the experience will be pretty damn cool. And with some Irish blood in me, I'd love to be able to go back to a place where, at least for some of my ancestors, it was the homeland. And I think that'd be a really cool opportunity. So you've got the tie-in of a football game, giving people a reason to go out there that probably wouldn't otherwise. And so that's part of the fun of this game. It is a long travel. You do have one less home game when you make trips like this for whoever was scheduled to be the home team. And who was it in this case? Was it Iowa State that was scheduled to be the home team? I don't recall.
I can't remember who gave up this. Bracket Cat or someone can help us.
Yeah, I can't recall who gave up the home game here. But, you did give that up. But, yeah, I think the experience is what you're after, obviously. Now, it is more high stakes because it is a conference game, and it's a tough opponent, whichever side you're looking at on the other sideline. So with no real lead up, I mean, how rusty and kind of green are these teams in that first game? And the fact that there's going to be some stakes already out of the gate will make that much more interesting. But yeah, I'm excited. It's exactly 1 month from today. They'll be kicking off at 11 a.m. So very excited that we're starting this countdown as opposed to I know a lot of the other stuff that we're going to get to.
Yeah, but I thought it would be a great way to get good. My God, we have sometimes the legal stuff, and there's more of that. And then sometimes, but I just thought that'd be kind of a fresh way to, hey, they start the clock. They started working out at both K-State and Iowa State. By the way, Bracket Cat, a huge K-State fan, said that they've already had a couple of players at Kansas State out. We know about is it Fitzpatrick? Fitzpatrick, who's out, who was injured, and then Cub Patton are both now, according to Bracket Cat, our beat reporter in Manhattan. They are out.
I'll go ahead and make a programming note for you, and thanks for those notes, because it's always good to just get the heads up, and we're not always like right on the beat. But you said you thought it'd be nice to always start off with the football stuff. Always do that, unless it's like the NCAA is dying. Yeah. Currently, like, always start with the football stuff.
I agree with you 100%. And, by the way, K-State's the team, according to the chat that gave up the home game. Now, the ACC Media Days, Big Ten Media Days, a lot of that going on. Mike Norvell, fiery this morning. I don't want a team full of sidekicks. I just want guys that are willing to grasp it, hold it, push it, and go be it. That's what I'm seeing with this team. He's not on the clock, but I'm telling you right now, the heat is up.
I'll tell you, I would have taken a team full of sidekicks a year ago. Those guys, like, as a person who knows superheroes very, very well, there was not one sidekick on that team last year. Batman would have fired them all. No, they were like, I know Danny Cannell said they had a team full of Robins and not Batmans. No, that's an insult to all the Robins.
Yeah.
They would not even have qualified for Robins. They could at best be henchmen for a lower level villain like the Condiment King. That was how bad they were. That's awful. So,
okay.
Yes, if he's saying this, I am cautiously optimistic because I believe he's a very good coach. But last year was so wild that it's hard to like wrap your head around. How do you go from seeing this program build from a 10-win season to a 13-win season to a 2-win season? And then where does it go from there? Because we've never really seen anything like that before.
They've got a savior, Craig, and Thomas Castellanos, who sticks to his gun. I don't mean no disrespect to none of those guys at Alabama when talking about what he's saying about the opening game to start the season against the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. What are you going to cave to social media pressure because you talked a little S? I mean, who cares what YouTuber 36 has to say about your opinion on the Alabama game? I mean, I know that it comes with the territory, but yeah, I'm glad. Stand on what you said and mean what you say, and that's what Thomas Castellanos is doing. And I think Florida State's a super intriguing team this year because of the up and down nature of the last couple seasons and the fact that, you don't quite know what to expect from them. I mean, you'd assume Castellanos is a major upgrade from their quarterback play a year ago, but how much of one? And also, how does that raise the team up around him to what level do they reach? And so every team's figuring that out right now and wondering that about themselves right now. But I think most teams have somewhat of a strong idea based on where they've been and who they are. And I think with Florida State's kind of bipolar sort of 2 seasons, they really don't know what to expect this year. Like, is it going to be more like 2 years ago, closer to that, or is it going to be closer to last year, or is it going to be somewhere in the middle? And I mean, it's wide ranging, the opinions, I think, on them, except for the one opinion I think everybody holds is that they're going to be much better than they were a year ago. You just don't know to what degree. But I think he'll be a big reason why. And I like that he's a quarterback that's talking a little trash. I don't embrace that all the time. I think you can go overboard with that. But what he said was harmless preseason stuff that, of course, got blown out of proportion and blown up because of who he was talking about and the size of that fan base, and also the fact of when he said it during a time when people are literally hoping for guys to say something to then go make a headline out of it. So he gave us some chum in the water, and the Sharks reacted accordingly.
His comment back during the early part of the summer, they don't have Nick Saban, Alabama, to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. Good for him. Now you got to play him, and when that game kicks off, you'll know either that's going to be something where you fire yourself up and you play well and you play really well. Whether that's enough to beat Alabama, I don't know, or you blank the bed. Now, I did not read a lot of this. I saw this. I thought this was a day or two ago about Maryland head coach Mike Locksley lost his locker room because of how he was distributing the NIL money, and I guess that maybe some feelings and emotions got involved. Is that right?
Yeah, he said that he didn't. And then this is going to happen more often. And I think, when we talked to Phil Bennett the other day about what the general manager's job should be, they do need, if you're going to have a general manager, you need to kind of follow the NFL model. And the successful NFL model is where the coach and general manager work hand in hand. The coach tells the general manager what kind of players he likes, who he likes. The general manager goes out and gets them, and then he worries about this stuff. Then it's not necessarily on the coach to do all this. The coach can run everything else, and they have the business side and the football side, which is why when you hear why the NFL works, like how often are players who are holding out mad at their head coach? Very rarely.
It's the owner or it's
you can be mad at the school, franchise. You can be mad at the GM or whatever, and this will probably be a little bit different than that, but because it is. But if you're going to do this, you can't do a half measure. So I think that's where general managers have to come in, because what the hell does Mike Locksley know about building a salary structure? He's been a football coach his whole life that's never had to do that. And then all of a sudden you have to learn about, okay, do I give this money to this guy? And then it's very political and it's all recruiting based. I don't. Do you think, does this make me think that Mike Locksley is any less of a coach than I did before I heard this? No, it just makes me think he's a coach.
Mike Gundy basically said this about not so much his locker room, because they gave the money to those who were the players who were there, rather than putting any of that money on those coming in. And so they're all learning this. We're learning it. So imagine if you're running a football program.
Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, they skidded badly towards the end of the season. He's highlighting as to why, because he ran into the same issue that various other head coaches, as you mentioned, have ran into, including Mike Gundy, including Dave Aranda, including, I'm sure, dozens of others that are all trying to still figure out certain parts of what their job entails now. But, I mean, Dave Aranda last summer leaves an interview with us at Media Days and then has to directly go into some meeting that he had set up separately, or that Baylor had set up separately, to go meet with guys to basically figure out how salary caps work. And so talking to like NFL guys about, wasn't that what it was? He was going to talk to like some NFL officials about like how salary caps work. So that was like something he never would have envisioned himself having to do for any reason. And suddenly that's at least part of the job. And so, yeah, you would like to hand off those responsibilities. Therefore, we've seen all of these new roles popping up. Now we have GMs and we have budgetary guys and all these other things. So, yeah, this is just Maryland's version of figuring it out, like everybody else has had to figure it out. And some were more well-equipped and some were more ready than others. And so he paid the price last year in trying to satisfy the young stars that you want to bring in the program and the old guys who have actually been there and given you their blood, sweat, and tears. And when he didn't balance that properly, it created a rift that clearly affected them as a football team. And they just completely just fell on their face down the second half of the season. So lesson learned, and we'll see if they're better for it. They should be.
Jim Phillips, back to the ACC for a second. This is not the only time that we've seen this, but they're going to start sharing player availability reports, injury reports. This has a lot to do, and this is with all sports, by the way, football, men's, women's basketball, et cetera, baseball, issued 2 days before the games. Is this all about gambling?
Probably. Yeah.
I think it has a large part, like 99% has to do with that. I don't know why we'd need to know otherwise. I mean, fantasy football, but I mean, that's not really like an official thing tied in like it is with the NFL, but I think they know everybody plays it in some form or fashion. There's been college football fantasy unofficial leagues for years and years.
I would think that they need to maybe embrace it a little bit.
Probably, yeah. I mean, that could be another revenue stream. So there you go, the official fantasy football partner, Yahoo Sports or something like that. But yeah, I think this is all about gambling and letting people have the transparency so that they know that they're not getting some GA telling a guy that this guy's hurt when he's really not, and it becomes a big, ugly, scandalous type of a thing. So yeah, this is just I think acknowledging that gambling's a part of everything now, and for better or worse, I have my feelings on that. I think there's some good to it. I also think that we're just barreling past even trying to even think about it for 2 seconds. That's okay. Not my call. So the best you can do is lean into the current atmosphere, and I think to just go ahead and make it transparent and put out injury reports is definitely the way to go. So they followed suit with what the SEC and others, and I think everybody should have this out there and available at this point in time.
I think it's just something that's part of what it is now. You're exactly right. One other note, a recruiting note, Texas Tech picked up another highly ranked player with a commitment from wide receiver Chase Campbell. He committed late yesterday evening to Texas Tech from Wolfforth Friendship. And so there's another player at a 4, depends on which one you look at. This is 247 with Garrett has up. Chase Campbell commits to Texas Tech. Now,
I mean, that's a nice. I think that was a totally expected get. I know that there were other teams involved, and I haven't followed super closely. But being where he is located, I think that was always one, and especially with what Tech's got in their arsenal, one he felt like, even though I think a Baylor might have been involved at some point or another. Yeah, they were in the mix, and one of the finalists, right? If I remember,
it was Tech and Baylor that it came down to.
Yeah, Tech and Baylor, and so I mean, look where he is. I think that's you're splitting hairs. You might as well just stay closer to home, and not just that, but that's where my head was. At least was like, well, he's out there in Wolfforth. Like I'm assuming he's probably going to end up at Tech, and so he does. And I think they expected that, and so that's a really nice get for them. And what's been a solid class. I think it's going to be a fun race to see who ends up with the best class. But after the news yesterday, much better odds that it's Texas Tech because now I know we're not getting into it all the way yet, but if you'll remember, Cody Campbell and company said that they had 2 avenues set up when all this house settlement thing was being talked about. And it was for if the house settlement is enacted and it goes the way that people want it to go, then they're going to have their cap and how they're going to work that and how that's all going to unfold. And then they had their other option, guys, and that was assuming that it wasn't going to be what everybody thought it was going to be, which turned out to be correct as of yesterday. And it's just basically what it was right before, and you can do whatever you want to do, although there's terms like soft cap and things of that nature. It pretty much reverted back to what it was for all intents and purposes. And so, yeah, they're going to knock the top off of the piggy bank again, and they're going to be landing a lot of 4 and 5 stars. And at the end, I am very interested to see what the race for the number 1 class in that league looks like, because I think Baylor's got a really good class. BYU's got a really good class. Tech, obviously, and there's a couple of others that I think will be in that mix as well.
You know, it's interesting, and it was so great to have Cody drop by when he did at Big 12 Media Days. We'll have a segment when we get to it on some of the legal stuff going on. There's some scratching and clawing, some back and forth, some yo-yo. The Pacific AD will have a comment or two from him. He is not happy because, again, they changed the rules, or they had an amendment to the rules, and they didn't give a damn about anyone but the Power 4 conferences that were involved in the decision. Pacific's AD will have those quotes in a minute. Now, it's crazy. We just saw in the chat room, there was a UCF fan that was in the chat room talking about Scott Frost. We had him on during Big 12 Media Days, and Scott Frost made comments about his time at Nebraska, and Nebraska faithful all lost their collective minds. Everybody seemed to do it. I listened to it. I still like the guy. He won a national championship as a quarterback. He didn't murder anybody, although I know some things that went on there did seem to be more than just shaky. But Matt Rhule, he's the head coach now at Nebraska. He was asked about Scott Frost. Here's a real short clip on his response.
A ton of respect for Scott. And I've always been very empathetic for what he went through because, like, this was his home. You know, like, if you guys fire me tomorrow, like, I'm just going to go back to Cape May and sit on the beach and go back to where I'm from. But, like, this was his home, right? And so, like, this offseason, we put up a huge picture of Scott as a player in the coach's area because I took a picture and I sent it to Ryan Callahan down there because I can't imagine, like, what that feels like for him, right? I know what it felt like to get run out of Carolina. And I would say to people, like, I don't think I took the right job for me. It wasn't the right fit. Doesn't mean it's a bad. No, I will say this. This was not a good job when I got here. Like, we were behind on NIL. The facilities weren't what they were. Everything was behind. Trev convinced me, like, hey, Matt, this is going to, by the time we get to the point where we're going to be able to pay players, like, this is the only Big Ten school with no debt. We're going to, like this, right now we're talking about 20.5. It's going to go up percentages every year. And we're at a place where we have the best facility in football. We have everything that we could want. We make more of an investment in nutrition than any other team in the country. I mean, look at all of our sports. Look at how they're all blossoming right now because of the investments we're making in nutrition, sports science. Like, there wasn't a sauna in the facility when we first got there. And now you got to pick between a steam room, a sauna, an infrared sauna, your personal sauna. Like, those were investments. Scott came at a time, he had COVID, he had all these different things. So I can't talk about his time. But what I can say was, this wasn't a good job. Yeah, it was not a good job. But we've made it a good job, and we're about to make it a great job. This will be one of the best jobs in the country. And, like, that's why sometimes recruits will say, like, Coach, if you win, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm gonna stay right here. Like, the only thing I ever think about is getting a lake house in one of these lakes in Nebraska I keep hearing about.
So there's Matt Rhule. There he was. It is 30 minutes or so when he was on the podium, but I thought that was pretty interesting. That he actually came to the defense of Scott Frost. He knows where the program was when he arrived. Now, there were a lot of things Frost could have done better.
He told us when he took the job he had to be convinced, because I think you asked him, like, when the phone rings and it's a school like Nebraska, I mean, is it one of those things where you're in your head, you're like, yeah, we got to get this worked out? And he said, no, it wasn't necessarily like that, because we know, we're fortunate enough to know him very well.
Yes.
So he said, like, no, we knew that he was going to ask every single question. And you know what? The one thing I hear about people that got annoyed with Matt at Baylor is that he never stopped asking questions about, how can you make this better? How can you do this better? Why does this knob only go up to 10? Like, can we make it higher? Because that's the way that he does things. So the first thing he was going to ask Trev Alberts at the time was, okay, where is all this? Where is it going? What have you secured, not just for me financially and my staff, but that we need to be a competitive program in the Big Ten and the nation again? So, yeah, if Scott Frost didn't have all that stuff, you kind of understand why it hit the wall. And I know a lot of people think that Scott Frost was, like, blaming Nebraska completely, but I do think that he was kind of copping to that he didn't really feel completely that that's where he wanted to be. He did it because the two father figures in his life, his actual father and Tom Osbourne, really wanted him to do it.
Well, and you don't take a job because somebody else wants you to do it. You got to be careful to make sure you want to do it, because otherwise you can get pretty miserable.
I said it at media days when everybody was reacting to that clip like he was just, like, talking the most S possible. I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it as like he was trying to just degrade Nebraska and say that it was not his fault at all or whatever. I just think that he truly made a bad choice trying to be the hometown savior, and he acknowledged that, and maybe he could have worded it and probably should have worded it a little bit differently, but I think that was just some of the aftermath of some Nebraska fans turning on him because of how things have all gone. And now, looking for him to say something to then light him up and, say this or that about him. And look, some of it is deserved. Some of it is his own doing. But I felt like that was treated like it was radioactive when it wasn't, to me, like, to that level, but I can see where people were sort of coming from. So I think Matt there, who we obviously are fans of and have known for a while, and I think he's a really good football coach. I think we're excited to see if his year 3 trend continues based on his previous stops in his career. Year 3 is always the year where they really bust through and break through. Last year, making the bowl game, you got Raiola back and so on and so forth, but very classy by him, because he could have thrown Scott Frost under the bus and made this a whole, like, if you don't think Nebraska's the greatest, then blah, 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 go Big Red. And he could have done that whole thing. And instead he did what was the classiest thing to do, is just say, like, hey, I kind of understand where he's coming from, and I don't think it was as toxic as it was made out to be, and it could have been better, and now it is better, and let's focus on the better and not sit here and just tear Scott Frost down and try to dwell in how bad that whole era was. But Scott Frost was bad during that time period. He wasn't the best version of himself. Nebraska wasn't the best version of itself. The whole landscape there in 2020 wasn't the best version of anything. And so, yeah, there were multiple reasons as to why Nebraska struggled, but at some point they got to get over the Scott Frost thing, and we got to just start talking about Matt Rhule in Nebraska.
Everybody within the program, they're not thinking about it, but the fan base needs to just, no matter what. I love Nebraska football. And we got one more thing to get to before our first guest. Just move on. Let it go. And I know that he's a hero and all that. My God, I just think there's so much anger. Go. Yeah. We want to get to this last video.
Yeah, I do. But here's what I would say, Nebraska. Did he win you a national championship when he was there? Then remember him as a player and go, the coach thing didn't work out.
Remember how much he put out, what he said after they beat Tennessee that was a big deal that might have swayed even 5 voters that won the national championship in the next morning overnight vote. So Paxton texted me last night after the show. He said, did you guys ever bring up Ozzy Osbourne? And we did not. We know that he passed away yesterday at the age of 76. Unbelievable songs, Metallica, and so much. So
Black Sabbath.
I'm sorry, Black Sabbath. What I do want to say, that's why he's got some great songs, Black Sabbath. What I do want, we can't really play a lot of music because of just like copyright stuff. So I found this clip, and this is Ozzy Osbourne about as well as you could possibly think.
And I are honored to be here tonight. Thanks for the invitation. What a fantastic audience we have tonight. Washington power brokers, celebrities, Hollywood stars, Ozzy Osbourne. Okay, Ozzy. Might have been a mistake. Thinking about Ozzy is he's made a lot of big hit recordings. Party with the Animals. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Facing Hell, Black Skies, and Bloodbath in Paradise. Ozzy, Mom loves your stuff.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's one of a kind. He was absolutely one of a kind. And I loved the Osbournes, the show that they did. I loved it. He cracked me up. I think of him. There was one episode where they said that he got so addicted to like Moe's, like burrito, burrito place down the street. It was a burrito place. He's like, I'll go to a burrito. And he would just go.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, Dad, you've got to stop eating all these burritos. It's not good for you. Like he goes to the doctor. The doctor's like, well, what have you been eating? He's like, oh, I love these burritos. And that was his deal. He was one of one. He was one of one.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I heard was Sharon, like that was in my head when I first heard it. I think it was Chipotle that he was like addicted to. He was a big Chipotle guy, but yeah, he was an all-timer, one-of-a-kind, first ballot Hall of Famer musician and just a celebrity kind of iconic figure. And there was nobody like him. I mean, nobody like Ozzy. He was refreshingly original, and there's nobody that's going to be like him in the future either. So yeah, I enjoyed the Osbournes there for a while when it was like the hottest thing on TV for a couple years or however long that stretch was. Eventually I faded away because I started, having other interest in things and wasn't as much at home to watch, television on the regular, but did watch it there pretty religiously for a couple of years. And then, kind of loosely seen stories about him here and there in the past couple of decades, but always was a fan and always was humored and entertained by him. And a guy who clearly had a lot of demons and made some mistakes along the way and all of that. We're all complicated people, and certainly he was no different. But overall, I think left a really great impression on the world, and I think you saw that probably a lot of the touches of tributes and things that were said yesterday.
Yeah, S. Michael DeHart, God broke the mold after making Ozzy Osbourne. And a lot of people, glad you had a chance, glad you enjoyed that from yesterday with Ozzy Osbourne passing away at 76. So I heard a music bed of all his songs, or some of the great songs, a lot of them. And I just turned it up as loud as I could today when I was in my car driving around the city. When we come back, Joshua Perry, the Big Ten Network, around the corner, Rachel Bachmann from Wall Street Journal, and North Dakota football coach Tim Polasek. All of that and more Thanks for your time. Please hit the subscribe to the channel. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LoadT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And a lot of that could affect many things with your body. You might be okay in everything you do. You might have a good diet. You might sleep well, maybe not sleep well, because one of the things about low testosterone is you don't sleep the same. Your sex drive might not be the same. Your energy is down. That's a huge symptom that you got to be careful about if you start to feel that way, no matter how you feel or what kind of shape you're in. It's just not, you don't feel right. And that's what Dr. Petty can help solve. Contact him, pettycliniclowt.com. He'll set you up to get your blood work, take care of that, get the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco during the Make This the Summer event. Check out the all-new Jeeps that are arriving daily. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990. Or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling, and ramp up your summer in style with a Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. This is how I wanna. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by, let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Joshua Perry, Big Ten Network. We've had him on. Go-to when it comes to talking about the conference that's won the last couple of national championships, Michigan and then Ohio State, and he'll get a smile on one of those. And he joins us now on 365 Sports. with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Hello, Joshua. Thanks for your time. Your thoughts about the Buckeyes and trying to defend the championship, and then on top of that, even though they're loaded, opening up at home against a team like UT.
Well, thanks for having me back. I'll start with the second part. That's going to be a hell of a game, right? And that's going to be a tough challenge for Ohio State. I've got a lot of respect for the Texas program, what Steve Sarkisian's done over the last few years, and they're loaded. They did a lot of what Ohio State did last year in terms of roster construction. They spent the money to be able to retain players, to go out and get players that they felt they needed. So they'll be coming in loaded. They'll be coming in hungry too, considering what happened in the semifinal last year. And for Ohio State, I think they're really talented. I think they're going to be really good. But what they're up against is a roster that's turned over. They had a lot of players that left through the draft, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. So they've got to get that together. There's a quarterback competition, and Ryan Day would not announce who a starter was here at Media Days. He said there's still more competition to go there. So a bunch of different faces, and having to walk into the horseshoe in week one against an opponent like Texas is going to be a tough start. Then you look down the schedule, of course, there are a couple of other games that they're going to have to circle that could be losable games. So you're looking at a team that's probably going to be in the 10-win range, but like it could be a 9-win team. It could be an 11 or 12-win team. We just don't know yet.
I was just about to ask you that, Joshua, that they, like, because of the way their schedule works out, they've got some gaps where it looks like they could maybe go on some runs if they bring it together. But, you know, Washington could be really improved. Illinois is nobody to mess with. Penn State is coming in very confident among all that. And then, of course, you've got the big bad Wolverines who've been Ryan Day's a thorn in his side at the end of the year. So could this team look really good but be 9-3 was my question. I think you already kind of answered it.
I think so, right? And like that's the weird thing about the era that we're in with these conferences, as bloated as they are, is you could get a schedule where, of course, you've got Penn State and Michigan, but also in a year where Washington might be better, and Damon Williams is here today, and you know he's one of the guys that everybody's raving about. It could be one of the breakout stars in college football. It's not going to be a surprise if Illinois is good this year. Everybody's talking about them, but Ohio State has to play that game. I believe they have to go on the road to do it. So you could be looking at a team with a couple of bumps and bruises. They went into the playoffs, by the way, last year with 2 losses, right? So, you know, not too far off of what happened a year ago, a really good team that had to take their lumps. It could be similar this year, but I do think there is an opportunity that they step back. They just might not be as good as they were a year ago because they were so veteran and had so many great players that went off to the NFL.
Josh, when you take away the top part of the league, that's the usual. So like Michigan, Ohio State, we know are always mentioned right off the top. You've got Penn State that's getting a lot of pub as like basically the favorites heading into this season. So let's take those 3 out of the equation and maybe even taking Oregon out, okay, just for the sake of we think they're going to be pretty sturdy every year. Who in those Illinois, the Nebraskas, the Indianas, those types of teams, and maybe even some that have been towards the bottom, who are some of those or one of those that you're buying stock on that you feel like could take a big step and maybe make things interesting this year?
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be buying their stock in Illinois. They're super veteran, and Brett Bielema, you know, people joke about him. I think he's a phenomenal ball coach. Like I've watched his meetings, I've watched him coach in practice, and I think he does a lot of the things that the great coaches do in terms of coaching his team. You mentioned Nebraska. I think they're going to be an interesting team this year. They could win 10 games because their schedule sets up for them to do so, right? Like they avoid some of the bigger challenges that, you know, a Wisconsin this year where they've got to play Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon. I think they've got SC on there. They got to play Iowa. Like Nebraska's schedule doesn't look quite like that. So it's almost the Indiana thing from a year ago where they got picked on because of their schedule, but it also allowed that program to elevate and play some really good ball. So if I had to pick 2 out specifically, Illinois is one that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, and keep your eye out for Nebraska because I think the path sets up for them.
Joshua, how hard is it to try to even figure out the tiers when you have that many teams in a conference? Like everybody now, the Power 4, 16, 17, 18 teams, to try to even put your arm or hands around it?
It's insane. And, you know, it's one of the conversations that's popped up here at Media Days. They asked the coaches and they asked the commissioner, Tony Petitti, yesterday, about the scheduling. And a lot of it was because of the proposed playoff format that the Big Ten likes, where Big Ten SEC would get 4 AQs, Big 12 and the ACC would get 2. You have the at-larges there, but it's a 9-game conference schedule, but even that doesn't feel like enough to get a good gauge on where everybody actually stacks up, because you can miss so many teams in the scheduling. Big Ten tries to do it in a balanced way, where they look at a rolling average of the last handful of years when they're putting the schedules together. But again, you could be Indiana and all of a sudden you're really good, or you could be Washington and Michigan, who played a national championship game and then took a big step back, and now somebody else's schedule that was supposed to be tough is much easier. So it's difficult. It's a challenge. I don't know if there's like an apparent solution to it. And everybody in the conference office is not just the Big Ten, are taking a look at how they can make sure their schedules are balanced and have the best look at their conference. So at the end of the year, their best teams are actually getting into the playoffs.
Oregon, when you talk about schedules, this is a year where the schedule kind of worked out for Oregon, in that, at least on paper, right now they only have 2 teams that are preseason ranked in Penn State and Indiana, and those are back-to-back games with a bye in between. But if no one in their schedule improves greatly, which the last 4 games could kind of throw that into a mix, but is this a team that could kind of coast for a little while?
I think so, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I think they're really talented, but they're losing some big pieces as well. Some pieces on defense, obviously. Dylan Gabriel not coming back at quarterback. They've got Dante Moore stepping in there, so they're going to have growing pains and some things to figure out. But once again, the way the schedule works out for them, they could get it done. It's interesting. Dan Lanning spoke this morning at the podium, and he said that their mantra for this year is double down. And in their first year in the Big Ten, they come in, they win the conference. And I think they knew that they could do it. But the whole conversation last year for the West Coast teams, are you tough enough to come into the Big Ten? Can you hang out with the big boys? Do you have the trench play? And Oregon always knew that they did. And so I think they want to go back and do it again. It's going to be with a different team. But to the question that you were asking, I think there'll be growing pains, but I think that they're so talented that they can grow past them. So by the end of the year, they're playing great ball.
What are your thoughts on this point? At this point on Lincoln Riley and where USC finds itself? It feels like they should be a much bigger part of the conversation, just brand-wise, of course, but Oregon's clearly the team from the pack that's taken all of the top spots in the headlines and everything, and it just feels like the Trojans have been sort of floundering. How do you feel about them, and do you expect any sort of a significant change this season?
I mean, this is a year, I think, where the pressure is on for Lincoln Riley, and folks have talked about this. Like, his buyout is prohibitive, and even for, USC West Coast money, like, he's pretty locked in. But you're getting to that point where if this year isn't an improvement over what they did a year ago, and to be fair to them, they were in a lot of really close games. Their losses weren't just like super embarrassing, get run off the field. They were in one possession games that they just couldn't pull out. They had Penn State on the ropes in the middle of the season. That was a game that they easily should have won, and they didn't, off of a couple of 4th and 15s. All that to say, they got to win those games this year. And if Lincoln Riley doesn't, I think it gets a little bit weird out west for him. I think he'll have lost a good portion of the fan base. I think it becomes more difficult to recruit, and that's something he has to continue to get better at. So I think they have the opportunity to make the improvement, but this has to be the year that they really step it up.
Joshua, the Big Ten has the last 2 national titles, and both of those teams in the end were just dynamic. We know Michigan with some of the drama, then Ohio State makes the run. They're good at that. You were a part of that team in 15 that made that run and ended up bludgeoning everybody in your way. What does it mean that the Big Ten won a couple of national titles, and do they need to win a chunk more for people to realize that the SEC is not the only one with a bunch of them?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get interesting in terms of narratives here because, as you mentioned, back-to-back titles. If you look at the semifinals for the college football playoff, you had Texas out of the SEC, and then you had a couple of Big Ten teams and another team from the Midwest in Notre Dame, right? And the talent certainly is in the South, but these big national programs can recruit everywhere. And so I think the rosters are top end as talented. Where the SEC to me always had the advantage is their 2s and their 3s were NFL players. And we had it like that at Ohio State, but not everybody in the Big Ten did. And when Urban came in 2012, one of the things that he bemoaned to the other coaches, to the commissioner at the time, was the fact that the Big Ten was not an elite recruiting conference. It wasn't really a national recruiting conference, and they had to change that. And that's happened. So the depth piece comes in with the portal, where the SEC, your 2s and 3s that are NFL guys are not sticking around if they're not playing the way that they used to. And so I think the competitive balance has shifted to more of a neutral spot. I'm not here to say that the Big Ten has overtaken the SEC by any means, but I think their opportunity is just as good as the SEC in any given year. And I think the further we get into this, with Penn State now as maybe the top team in the country, maybe Penn State or Texas in a lot of people's eyes, Big Ten's right there.
So you just brought up Penn State. James Franklin has been he is a very good coach, and he's probably a great coach, but he hasn't had the great wins yet, where he beats a team that they're not favored against. He wins that big game in a big spot. They've been just slightly on the outside looking in for his tenure. Is this does he clear hurdles now? Is it him? Is it the talent that he hasn't had?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the year for him. There's not really going to be an excuse. He said at the podium today that this is the best combined personnel he's had. He means players and coaches when he says that. He's got a couple guys on his coaching staff that had head coaching experience as well. Everything's lined up. They had a bunch of players come back. It's interesting when you get into the narrative around James Franklin, because James Franklin can't win the big game, right? Said that about Ryan Day, basically, until he went into the college football playoff last year and did nothing but win big games. You think back, Kirby Smart was a guy who had really talented teams, and the thorn in his side was a big game. You know, he can't get over the hump. Can he ever win a national title? Some people asked about Kirby Smart. So we'll find out about James Franklin. There will be zero excuses this year if they are not an elite team in college football. But I got in trouble with it last year with the Ryan Day can't do it thing. I'm not ready to say that because I haven't seen James Franklin with what he's got this year.
Joshua, the Big Ten, and somebody in our chat room, and again, it's just a fan, and we appreciate our customers, that said something about the Big Ten, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, or that's not who they are, or are they still fighting that narrative?
I mean, I think that's how some teams still play ball. I mean, you look at Michigan, the way that they won, they were running it with a first-round quarterback. They wanted to run it first. I think Ohio State had to develop more of a run game. They certainly threw it around the yard, and they're known for wide receivers. But I think last year with Chip Kelly was we've got to figure out how to run it. Penn State, the best thing they did a year ago was run the football. Minnesota's a run the football type of school. Wisconsin's kind of reverting back to that. In year 3 of Luke Fickell, they want to run the ball a little bit more, right? So I do think it's still this old school Big Ten ball, but all these guys can air it out. They can put you in space too. And I think that's where it's dangerous, is there's a ton of balance when you look at Big Ten football. And I think when you look nationally at the best teams, they want to be balanced. They want to be really good at doing all of the things. And so 3 yards in a cloud of dust for a guy who grew up in the Midwest, kind of a badge of honor. I think it's pretty cool.
Josh Barrett from the Big Ten Network. Any other storylines that came out of this week that kind of caught your attention?
No, I mean, it's a lot of playoff talk. It's a lot of revenue share talk, right? I think this is the media days that might be a little bit less about football and more about the changing landscape of the sport. So if there was a storyline there, I think that's it. We're getting less questions about, Coach, what's the team going to look like? And more questions of, well, Coach, what's your salary cap going to be, and how do you think that you're going to use that to build your roster?
Yeah, it's all. Man, people, it's a juggling act right now. And hell, they just changed the rule again yesterday.
Was there a sigh, I don't want to say a sigh of relief, but did you get maybe a vibe that some of the coaches like, okay, well, now I understand this a little bit more now because, what legitimate business purpose or whatever the term they use is has been at least broadened?
I think there was actually an eye roll of here we go again. We everything's still changing right in front of our eyes. I think there's a general feeling of frustration, and that's perfectly fine because this is a frustrating time in terms of the landscape of the sport.
If you don't mind, one more question about NIL. We had a quote up earlier from a coach that mentioned, it was Mike Loxley, that he lost his locker room because of how he paid or who he was paying, this or that. Joshua, you were there. You played big boy football, won a national title at a huge school. What would it have been like in your locker room, and how would you think it would have been fair to divvy that up among everybody on the roster?
I don't know. I played with legit stars, right? Like Braxton Miller was like watching a video game. He was a star. Ezekiel Elliott was a star. Joey Bosa was a star. And Mike Thomas was a star, right? Like you can go down the list. So those guys, they were going to get paid. And they would have had to be paid. And me, the type of guy that I am, I'm all for it. I would have got whatever I would have had and been perfectly fine with it. I want to see my teammates be successful. But when you're young, you're also a little bit immature, and jealousy does come into play. Loxley had a great quote there where he said, leave your Louis belts, your car keys, and your financial statements out of the locker room.
Yeah.
And that's the era that we're in right now.
Yeah. Hey, great stuff. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Joshua Perry, Big Ten Network, Ohio State, part of that 2015. That was the team. That's the one, right? That 14 team that had all the injuries at quarterback, and eventually Cardell Jones took over. Big dude. And they ran the table in the postseason.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get to go to that game against Oregon. And it was up in Dallas, the very first one. And it was so weird because I walked in and there are all these Oregon fans tailgating outside, and they had this confidence of like, yeah, I know that they've won this game with a third string quarterback, but we've got the Heisman Trophy winner and Marcus Mariota, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And then particularly Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, he had a huge
kicked their ass.
Yeah, he was a star, no question.
Yeah, he was just they could not get over on him. I rode down on the elevator with Chip Kelly when I got to go to the press room. When I got on the elevator, went down a floor because I was in the auxiliary area. Chip Kelly gets on, an angrier human being you could not have seen because it was not his team anymore. It was Mark Helfrich's team.
Yes.
And so he's going down, and you could just see like everybody had walked past him, and he had just felt like he had failed. It was so weird and very tense. It was me and like 7 other media members, and then Chip Kelly in this corner stewing, and you could feel the rage just popping off.
Those were his guys.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, those were his guys.
You could also feel the air just completely just blowing out of the balloon that was Oregon's hopes for finally winning a national title. Like, and Zeke was, certainly the star in that game, and the Ohio State quarterback situation. Few teams could have navigated that the way that they did. I mean, because their backups are still better than a lot of people's starters probably. But, I mean, to have to go through 3 quarterbacks and still win a national title is pretty amazing stuff. But, yeah, I knew a girl that was a big Oregon fan, and I know how excited everybody was for like, this is the year. This is like, it's going to finally happen, right? And then, boom, here comes the Buckeyes again and totally dash their dreams. But that was a very memorable Ohio State team. And was that the first playoff, right?
Yep.
That was very memorable for that reason. And got a little bug over here. Sorry. I was going to say, it's like just for future reference, because we talk about the size of these conferences. I'm not looking at chat, so I'm not saying that like this is a reaction to anything other than this is just what I was thinking thinking during Josh Perry when I wanted to ask him about Michigan State, and I wanted to ask him about 1 or 2 other teams. We can't talk about everybody. Like, unless we do an hour podcast specifically on a league, it's now basically impossible to touch on everything within the span of a 20-minute interview, because you'd have to spend less than 2 minutes on every single team, which I guess you could theoretically do.
Nah.
But when you're asking questions, so just like for future reference, I mean, you can always be in chat and be like, hey, can you ask about this? And
Right.
sometimes we'll roll along with that or not. But like, yeah, that was just dawning on me. I was like, man, I'd love to ask about a couple more schools, but damn, we've already asked them about 12 schools, and we can't run through the whole league, can we? But
that's why
we try.
If we end up discussing Michigan State or whoever else, other than 3 or 4 of those dudes at the top that are expected to win, it's going to have to be after maybe a huge win. We'll highlight them or a game coming up. That's what we'll have. You're right. It's just impossible. It really is impossible with the size. We were in Frisco for 2 days for basically 20 hours or so of coverage. And even then we barely had enough time to get to everybody.
We did a big bajillion bajillion interviews and still didn't interview 3 head coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, and I swear I didn't feel like I got up from the table but twice the entire day basically. And I'm exaggerating there, but not really, because it was like constant, and yet we still didn't get everybody. Like
you have to react to, hey, Sonny Dax is coming over here right now, because it like, oh, I was gonna go get a snack.
Craig was so hungry one time.
Yeah, no, I at least they feed you there at the pro day. We're the only media really there.
Yeah,
it's like us and 2 other people, so they don't have any food and they don't have any quick service around all the restaurants. They have these great restaurants all around the Star, but it's nowhere that you can just go in and go, give me 4 cheeseburgers to go.
That's what I did during pro day.
Yeah.
It kind of
cost me $200.
Sit and go wait. I mean, at least they do have restaurants around. Because unlike AT&T there for a while, when it was like in the middle of just a massive parking lot and there was nothing that wasn't walkable. Big 12 pro days at the Star, I think, was a better site than AT&T Stadium. The one complaint I have is I think that they rolled out the candy and the snacks and the refreshments, like they were perfect on that, man. They had like real full-size bags of all the types of candy, and they had drinks that were cold all day long. Like at AT&T Stadium, by noon, all the ice was melted and they weren't refilling the cooler. Like, I don't know what was going on there, but at the Star, like that bad boy was stocked, and we were treated very well. Could have done with a different lunch on day 2 rather than the same one.
Yeah, and then they stole your Diet Cokes.
And they stole my Diet Cokes, which I almost fought everybody. But beyond that, like the Star was great, and that was great. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you're in chat and you want to hear about certain things, sometimes you're going to have to prod, and that doesn't always mean we'll react to it. But yeah, it's these big conferences, it doesn't leave you much room to cover everybody in a single segment.
In the chat, they know that if they want a specific question about a player or a team, just tag any of us. And we'll get it. I'm in there as much as I can. Garrett monitors it all of the time.
I think the Big Ten is fascinating, though, heading into this year. I think there's a lot of really interesting quarterbacks. I think there's some really interesting coaches and teams. And, I mean, Lincoln Riley and USC and Matt Rhule in Nebraska, and not to mention Dylan Ray. I mean, we could go on, and we kind of did a lot of that. But, yeah, I think that's a really intriguing league, especially if Ohio State's not quite up to snuff, which I'll believe that when I see it. But I know why everybody expects it.
I think a down year for them.
And Michigan's also not expected to be just dominant as well.
But I think a down year for them is just being 9-3 and just looking good and not great yet.
Yeah. By the way, how do you tag the Dragon? Just tag him, and then I'll look at it, and I'll pass it on to him. When we come back, Rachel Bachmann from the Wall Street Journal on holy moly, a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to college athletics and the legal part and Congress and more. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35, and, of course, prepping for that opening game on the last Friday in August when Baylor will host Auburn and all the other home games. But they're more than just what is going on during a game day. In fact, that's really more the value than anything else because of lunches and dinners and special events and more. For example, they are having their, dine with them on a 2C and enjoy a la carte menu that's coming up. You get a glass of wine, some really good entree, vegetable salad bar, and and they have special nights during the week, Wednesday night, Thursday night. What is it, Paul? Friday night. It's always like some sort of shrimp or something seafood. And it's absolutely delicious. And Nick Colwell now, the new general manager there. And on top of that, they're a part of membership at the Baylor Club with Club Corps. You can play golf courses around the country that are also attached to Club Corps. It's the amenities, major events, or something small and private. They can do that for you. The Baylor Club. Tell them 365 Sports sent you off I-35 inside McLean Stadium in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Rachel Bachmann, senior sports reporter of the Wall Street Journal, and thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And since we asked you to come on, like, not all hell's broken loose, but a lot of things are already changing, Rachel, even from yesterday with whatever they're doing with NIL and collectives. How you doing? Thank you very much for your time.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So what did yesterday? What happened? What does that actually mean to the collectives?
To be determined. I think that the governing bodies, the new governing bodies of college sports, are still trying to sort out what collectives can and can't do. I think the initial intent among many crafting the new rules was to basically shut them down. And I think what we're seeing is that is legally problematic, probably, especially given, as you guys probably saw, how incredibly popular they were. I mean, more than $1 billion was given through collectives last year alone, this past school year. And so thinking about trying to shut that all down is going to be problematic.
You said in the article, it was one thing I know about rich people is that they're going to get their way, right? Or they're going to find a way to do what they want to do. And that's very true. The other thing I could not wrap my brain around is the term legitimate business purpose when it came to NIL Go. And so some of those rich people will tell you whatever I'm doing, if it's my choice, is a legitimate business purpose, as long as it falls within the laws of these United States. So I never understood that, and I kind of felt that would undo it. What were your thoughts when you read that?
Well, in fact, that is what is still being haggled over right now. What does that phrase mean? It's open to a lot of interpretation. And so I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. What a lot of people saw is, as I wrote in the story, college boosters used to be seen as pariahs, right? I mean, they would get programs in trouble in attempts to pay players or, give them sort of like lightweight jobs as a way to pay them and so on. Collectives really legitimized those donations. They were the way for the first time that college fans could really essentially pay players legitimately. I mean, there's a little more to it than that. Often they would do charity work or promotional work, but the collectives were an attempt to sort of standardize that kind of thing because pay for play is still technically banned, even though some people would say what's happening now with revenue sharing is pretty much pay for play. That's technically still banned. And so that's going to be one of the really interesting things about trying to essentially put the toothpaste back in the tube with a lot of boosters, because I think they really enjoyed that they could have such an impact on their teams. And even, down to the fans who gave, $10 a month or whatever it was, they could give in a way that was very direct and felt, I think, pretty meaningful to a lot of people.
Rachel, so with yesterday's ruling, I saw the AD at Pacific. He was upset because it's almost like written and reported this way. There was the 4 power conferences that had been doing this with Matt Baker and all this other stuff. It's like they're paying the same amount of money when it comes to this settlement, all of the billions or whatever it is, and yet they really aren't even in the room, are they?
You're absolutely right in that the power conferences have more power than they ever have before, and there are a number of reasons for that. But the biggest reason is they control the football television money, and as a lot of people still don't understand that the NCAA lost control of selling college football TV rights in the 80s, so they don't get any money from college football television. That goes to the conferences. So with the NCAA basketball tournaments, for instance, that money comes through the NCAA, and then they, through all these formulas, distribute some of it, a lot of it, to schools and conferences. So they at least control that, and they fund a lot of their operations that way through the men's basketball tournament. Imagine how different the NCAA might be if it had held onto control of selling college football broadcast rights. But now we're living in a world where the conferences control those incredibly valuable assets. And because they do, and because those have become so much more valuable, they really increasingly are using that power to call the shots about everything that happens.
What do you know about NIL Go and its functionality that would be reportable or explain it to anyone? Have you been able to uncover anything about that? Because we were at Big 12 Media Days 2 weeks ago, and all the coaches were like, I have no idea what NIL, like what it does. Part of me would be tempted to just make a deal with someone and submit it just so I could see it.
Well, I mean, in very basic terms, now, of course, college athletic departments can share up to $20.5 million in their own revenues with athletes. So anything that flows to athletes, college athletes, that comes outside of that has to go through this clearinghouse, from what I understand. So everything from, Cooper Flagg getting his deal with New Balance, that has to go through. I'm guessing that would pass with no problem, to someone who gets a deal from a booster collective. And, the athlete would have to submit that and say, okay, this is what the deal is for. This is how much it is. And this is what I have to do in return. And that's where the rubber really meets the road. And NIL Go, the people who run that, have to determine, okay, is this, as you said before, a valid business purpose? Is this, commensurate with what other athletes in similar situations are making? And that gets very murky very quickly. And so that is essentially what's being hashed out right now. But that's why it's so confusing. The other thing that's confusing about this is, from what I understand, is really on athletes and to some extent their agents to submit these things. If you think about how busy athletes already are with, preseason camp, studies, et cetera, I mean, that's another thing on their plate that they've never had to do before, that was rolled out very recently. And so that's another level of complication. I know some people on campuses are concerned that athletes, don't know how to do this or will procrastinate, which could potentially put them at risk of some kind of sanction.
So I saw this note from Ross Dellinger earlier today. On a potentially historic day on Capitol Hill, when all-encompassing college sports bill could advance out of the committee, 2 Democrats reintroducing a bill that would permit what many in the industry crave, collective bargaining with athletes. Is that ever going to happen? And is there more momentum about that now than ever before?
I think there is more momentum if it's enough to pass a bill That's a great question. Many of these bills, I should remind listeners and viewers, have been proposed before and they pretty much all failed. And I think there are many more people now, including I think the AD at Tennessee, who have said, look, collective bargaining is the only way forward, because it doesn't look like Congress is necessarily going to grant an antitrust exemption, which would essentially let college sports leaders make the rules they want to make without fear of being sued. But aside from that, generally in our country, you can't just simply cap earnings in an entire industry without collectively bargaining with players. It just is not, it's just a very difficult argument to make legally. And so, some people say that's the only way forward. As we've seen in the past, the NCAA and other college sports leaders, many of them are fighting that because it's a whole new era of further complication and difficulty. But I don't really know. I mean, I think we're probably facing more lawsuits. Unless there's an antitrust exemption, we're facing more lawsuits if we don't have collective bargaining, because it's just too legally perilous.
Isn't that what the House settlement was supposed to help solve? Was less lawsuits? It has created as many, if not more.
It was, although I think they were also passing it with like their fingers crossed, like, well, if we can get an antitrust exemption, this would really be a slam dunk, which it might be, because antitrust exemptions let leagues do a number of things they otherwise couldn't do legally. Mm-hmm. So, but I just have my doubt. I mean, it's never been passed before, and there's a number of people who are very against it because they would see it as clawing back some rights that athletes have won over those many years of lawsuits. Let's face it. I mean, college football, particularly college basketball, I would say a number of college sports, much more closely resemble professional sports than they ever have. And capping the compensation of only one group in that whole enterprise, athletes, seems pretty dubious, if you ask me. We don't cap coaches' earnings. We don't cap AD's earnings. Only athletes are having to go through this sort of, the NIL Go, and, their revenue sharing is capped and so on. It's only athletes whose earnings are limited in some way.
Rachel, the SCORE Act advanced out of committee. Every Democrat voted against it and one Republican. So it's not going to, whenever it does get to the floor, I don't know if Congress is going away or staying now. There's a lot of weird stuff going on that has nothing to do with this, obviously, there. But if they do wind up leaving, which who knows, say it comes to the floor in September, October, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be easy in the Senate. What do you think the real chances it has of actually getting through, given that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at the highest levels of government?
I think it's still going to be a challenge. As you mentioned, most if not all Democrats are against it, and one Republican at least. It's hard to speculate because the news cycle, I'm sure you've noticed, moves extremely quickly. So I think in the short term, more likely is the College Sports Commission, which is essentially serving as the policing body for major college sports right now, not, on these issues, on player compensation issues. They need to come to some agreement with the House lawyers about collectives, because there's a ton of money at stake. And so they need to hash something. And despite the reporting yesterday, people have said in the wake of that report that, we haven't really finalized things yet. We have not hammered out exactly what the new path forward is with collectives. So there's still some negotiating being done.
You have covered every major event on earth, basically, when it comes to sports, the Olympics, among many things. Have you ever seen such a run of so many legal stories that we've seen really in the last year or so?
I mean, that's the nature of college sports. And I think that the challenge is, as I mentioned, they're so much more like professional sports than they've ever been before. If they were like they were 100 years ago, with, the main revenue being ticket sales and so on, I don't think we'd be in this position. But the money has just gotten so massive. I mean, college football now makes far more money than the NCAA itself, far more, including March Madness and everything. So that is just paradigm changing. I mean, even, 30 years ago, you guys might remember there was maybe like one game of the week on TV or something. There was still, limits on how many games were on TV. Once people saw and networks saw the demand for college football, it was like game over. I mean, the broadcast proliferated, the money skyrocketed. And of course, naturally, the players thought, well, why aren't we profiting from this? I mean, we are the stars, and yet we have very few rights. And they have more rights than they ever have before, but they still don't have as many rights as the other people in the enterprise.
Thank you, Rachel. We appreciate it so much. Thanks for your time today.
Appreciate it.
Rachel Bachmann, the Wall Street Journal, with us on many things that a lot of times we get to the headlines, and a lot of times we get into that because sometimes it's the news of the day. But I thought we'd kind of mainly wrap all that up into one bundle today in the 4 o'clock segment with her.
Solid plan.
Thank you very much. I really thought that we were able to talk about teams practicing to start the show, which is, my God, what we really want to do all of the time. When we come back.
They play?
Yes.
Okay.
August 21st. I don't know when that first game is.
24th.
24th. So when we come back, our little jiu-jitsu, Andrew Valade, put up a note about if you were the Big 12 commissioner for one day, on many things. And this kind of surrounded what Memphis was trying to do to get into the Big 12. And I think some people, for the most part, stayed within the rules of the the guardrails of his question. We're going to come back with the tweet, the question, the graphic. If you were Big 12 commissioner for a day when it comes to mainly adding teams or a team, what would you do? That's next. This is 365 Sports. I began my day as I do most every day at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. And this morning I was like on my way to the gym, which is not a very long drive. I was like, what am I going to do today? I can't run as much. In fact, hardly at all because of my hip. It's just enough to where it's sore. It's not painful. So today I got on the treadmill at a high incline at a pretty nice pace. And I walked for 30 minutes until there was a pretty good sweat going. Then I went outside and I did just a lap around the big, huge parking lot where I walked and jogged, but I didn't jog very long, but just enough to get some sun, smell the fresh air to get the day going, have some thoughts go through my mind. What do we have today? And then on top of that, just a little bit of weights. I don't pump heavy iron. Never really have, but I had enough weight work where I'll feel sore tomorrow. It was a great way to start the day. And I hope that you have an opportunity to one day do that if you're not doing it already. Start your day or at some point go by and get in a great workout. From group exercise classes and personal trainers to you do what you do at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
All right, so Andrew Valade put a tweet up. It was part of a poll that we did too? Yeah,
it was part of the poll.
And then he did this. So this is the actual tweet with a map. Now, Lake, we got to be honest here. This map's a little bit, he didn't make the map. Andrew did not make the map because Houston is not west of Waco, right?
Or just south of Lubbock.
Or just south of Lubbock. So that's one thing that happened here. That's not his fault. He did not do that. That's not on him. That's just the way that this was the graphic that we used. Now, the question was, if in fact you were a Big 12 commissioner for a day, you're a commissioner for a day, what school are you inviting? Now, again, school is singular, but you know how this works. A bunch of different responses, but here are some of the responses, and Paul and Craig, you guys, let me know how you feel as we go.
I'm kicking out Utah.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
By the way, did you see the tweet I sent you guys?
Yeah,
we
that
saw
the
that.
Big 12 is offering Utah $200 million to leave the conference.
But they
or
said
something.
no because nobody else wants them. Yeah.
All right, so our buddy,
I am kidding for what it's worth.
you're gonna get so just cause our good buddy from West Virginia. Realistically, NC State, Virginia Tech, or Louisville, stretch option, Clemson, or Florida State. I don't know about that, but thank you, Garrett, Pitt, and Louisville.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you before. Let's go back on that because there's a lot of FSU and Clemson.
Yeah, there's a lot of
here.
ACC.
Well, and Coos, that's Justin Walker.
Yeah.
He's a Rogue Media family member as well. So shout out to Coos, who does a great job covering West Virginia.
Is it Coos or Cuz?
I call him Coos.
Yeah.
If I'm saying it wrong, then I'm saying it wrong.
I'll have
let
to
me
ask
know.
him that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and
we're going to talk about this for a little bit. Yeah.
And Coos, he is right in saying it's a stretch option. But let me ask Big 12 fans this: if you put this out there, FSU and Clemson just sued their own conference to get their way and won, more or less. Like they really, really have that. Do you really want
Nope.
Would you want that? Like it's not saying let's take Texas back, but it's like let's take 2 teams that really would like to be Texas back. I mean, like that's what they're doing in the ACC is what Texas used to do in this league, which is unilaterally make decisions.
I just have never, when it comes to that, I've never bought that there was interest on the part of FSU and Clemson that was realistic enough to talk about.
No,
because why do you go to the efforts that you go to try to get out of the ACC to just go join the Big 12? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and never has to me. And I know that there's monetary reasons as to why, and there's, well, you would be the featured product. Well, Texas and Oklahoma were the featured product, and what did they end up doing when all was said and done? So, yeah, I think if you're Florida State and you're Clemson, you're not going to all this trouble to just go sideways, basically. And I don't care if you think the Big 12 is a step above, which is debatable. If it's a slight step at most, it's not some giant gulf. So, yeah, like that's never made sense to me. And there was all this clamor like, it's happening last summer, which is BS, but, like, that is out there, and that's something that I do think is like the pipe dream of pipe dreams. But I just don't get it at all from an FSU and Clemson standpoint of why they would go to all this trouble for that move.
Rhett Lashley yesterday making it clear he thinks that when he did the automatic qualifier that the ACC should get one more team ahead of the Big 12, and that's fine. He's a part of that conference. But I don't look at, you see the Big 10, SEC, but the Big 12 and ACC, the one thing, no matter how many of you are Big 12 fans or not, the ACC has alphas. They have logos. And so I don't know why a logo would leave a conference where they're the logo to go to one that, unless it's a financial decision and something changes dramatically, that they would join the Big 12.
The biggest logo that I think is realistic for the Big 12 in the future 5 to 10 to 15 years is Miami. I think, and I say that just because I don't know that they're like I think like FSU and Clemson, I don't care what everybody's saying about, well, we've already got South Carolina. We're not going to take bullshit. I'm sorry, but like, come on, dude, that's bullshit. I mean, so in the case of Miami, I do think with them being smaller and just being a little bit different in their own way, that could be a team that doesn't necessarily have just the automatic. But I don't know. Like the Big Ten might be meeting now and saying Miami's the first team we're calling. I doubt that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, so I think if you were to play pipe dream, that would be the most realistic one to me as far as a big brand name would go. And so that's just where I am.
I agree with you because Miami, while they do have a lot of things that might align with some of the, like, especially like the Big Ten, they're an AAU school, all those things.
Which I don't buy that's the end all be all either.
I think that's kind of probably over now. Like when it comes down to it,
depending on who you are.
Yes.
Yes.
But and everybody's going to try to do it because it's just a thing you put on your resume. But Miami is a small private school. The Big 12 already has Baylor, TCU. Now, I know BYU is not really what you'd call small, but it's a private school. They've got private schools, in the thing. They also have schools that, Kansas State is not a private school, but it's not this vast expanse of a university like UCF is, or something like that, or Tech is like these gigantic schools. So the Big 12 does have other people that are like sized, and I don't think that if you're the Big Ten of the SEC, you think getting Miami is going to increase your foothold in Florida. You already have it. So it would though for
it
the
would
Big
surely
12
help UCF, West Virginia, and some of those with somebody that's a tag to them, and that's why Pitt, Louisville, Garrett, you put them up, I think, as a couple of teams you'd like to see. If you were the commissioner of the day.
I thought they should have done Louisville back when they added West Virginia.
No, I did too. I think back in 16 or whatever before. So Caesar Scott, a school with cartography department. I think it's to do with the fact that
the
what
map,
we see with this.
it's all messed
Yeah, I feel like I saw. Is that map from the Utah preview from like a year ago? I feel like
so,
that's where I saw it. So I wanted.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to give credit there because I mean, somebody put in the effort to put all that together, and they need to check their geography when it comes to the state of Texas for sure. And I don't know who might be a little off there because Houston needs to trade spots with Baylor.
Over near Alpine,
Houston's
Texas,
where
right?
Baylor is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
I know. Switch them out at least and shove Baylor into the middle.
Yeah. But so I definitely remember seeing this a year ago. Then KU's like, I guess they got the little line drawn there. So okay, like I like the sort of the old cartoony looking graphics like that. So I think that whoever did that did a good job.
Just need to flip those.
On everything but some of the location.
Back to the decision making. But you're right. That's the first thing that I saw was like, where in the hell's Houston?
I wanted to point it out because I knew that I recognized that, and I wanted to make sure they get the credit. So I think that was from the Utah University Preview magazine from before last season when they were talking about now being in the Big 12. But get to like the questions, and we can.
And one of the reasons we're bringing this up, one, it's a topic that's of interest because of the Memphis thing earlier, but also that Andrew brought up the fact there was a huge amount of response to it. Here's another one. The Big 12 would have to have success in the playoffs. First of all, go get Oklahoma and Nebraska back. They're not coming back. The money's not even close. It's almost probably half or less than half of what they're getting. But this is the idea from Nick. But go back and make college football regional again. Those days are gone. Done with Maryland and Rutgers. going to the West Coast to play in the Pac-12 against teams from Stanford, not Stanford and Cal in the ACC. Those days are over.
If you want that to happen, then you need to be a big Cody Campbell fan, and you need him to get his way, because that's how that would all happen. Otherwise, there's just no – I mean, think about it. If you're Texas, you put in all that time. It's kind of like the FSU Clemson thing. It's like you went and put all that time to join the SEC to then just go join the old Southwest Conference reimagined. Like, no, you're not doing that. You're not – no chance in hell you're doing that.
Salty Rooster. I would do nothing. I'd wait and see what happens eventually to the ACC.
Well, I think that's what's playing out right now. And I think that's a large part of the Memphis decision was why? Why do we need to do this right now? Yeah, for the money, but not enough money per team to justify onboarding and all of the things that come with that. I mean, it's a very enticing offer. I feel for Memphis fans. We talked about that yesterday. But yeah, I think if you're the Big 12 at this point, this is where a lot of the imagining when it comes to realignment, I think, starts to go off base. And I mention this like every time. It's like you're not trying to build a 32-team league just to say you've got 32 teams. Mm-hmm. You're trying to make money. You're trying to be competitive, and you're trying to be interesting. Just adding teams doesn't make you better automatically, because you can add teams that suddenly have you losing money or drag down whatever kind of rating. So yeah, my philosophy at least is like, there's got to be a reason to do it. And I don't think there's a reason for them to do anything at the moment, but yeah, there is a reason to set yourself up. And I think everybody acknowledges that they and everyone else is setting themselves up for, hey, every time TV deals come up, crazy stuff happens. And what are we looking at in about 4 years? TV deals are going to be coming up for everybody. So I think all ducks are getting put in a row. And for the Big 12, you have to be looking at the ACC and going, all right, how does this fracture potentially, and who do we swoop in? And y'all mentioned Louisville, and I think that's like, as far as the team that's the most Big 12 that probably should have already been in the league, had a chance to be in the league, has been looked at, et cetera. Like, yeah, they're the most obvious fit for this exercise.
Another one, Army, Navy, because of the rivalry, two great options, an era of nationwide football. And then again, no ACC schools would accept it's a step down.
Depends on where we are with TV deals and whatnot. It depends on if, like right now, yeah, I agree with you. That's why, like, a lot of the they're joining last summer and things like that. I just, it was just kind of silly. But I think in 4 years, if Florida State and Clemson get invitations to go join bigger leagues, well, then all of a sudden that's not the same ACC, is it? That's the key. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if Florida State and Clemson stick around, there's no point in anybody going anywhere because you have your top dogs. It's if they leave, then yeah, it's game on, and you go and you say, okay, well, if you are Miami or someone along those lines, you'd probably rather not leave.
If they do leave, those two, would that not become what happened to the Pac-12?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Everybody would start looking around and going, all right, who do we pick from here now? And I don't know how many options there would be, but that's when you get into that whole conversation. And for folks who have followed realignment, they've been talking about this for years and years. But, yeah, that's when you swoop in and you get into the Big Ten's adding Georgia Tech. And so then they're gone. And the Big Ten's adding Miami or whoever, and then they're gone, and so then everybody starts to go grab their lifeboats, and yeah, that's when all of a sudden it's not a comparison, but that's if you lose your top teams.
All right, so let's say Memphis had the offer, Paul, and the Big 12 said, okay, but we need somebody to join us with you. Who would that have been? UConn? Tulane? USF, if in fact there was somebody that would join the conference if the Memphis offer was accepted?
I think if you ranked on who is ready to go with everything, USF and Tulane would be well ahead of the game when it comes to UConn because their football is much more established. USF's building a new stadium on campus. Like, there's all these good things kind of happening there. Now, the UCF people would feel like BYU did when Utah joined, or Utah did when they were forced to join with BYU. That's kind of how it would feel. They really do hate each other quite a bit in that rivalry. But yeah, I would say that Tulane or USF would be the ones that would have to be the 18th member, coming along to balance out the schedule.
Craig, respond to what Paul said and the question. Then I want to get to West Virginia for a quick note.
I think all those would have been options. I don't know how the Big 12, I know they've vetted all those schools and that they've had to have done their due diligence. I don't know how they stack up. Personally, I am probably leaning more towards staying in the South and adding another team out in the East, like a USF. But again, I don't think that you're adding any of these teams because I don't think they're additive right now. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're adding them because now we're – 3 major conferences because the ACC is going to just get ripped apart, right? And then everybody's picking the bones. But beyond that, I think the play for the Big 12 is unless your Mark's going to get that UConn thing, sooner rather than later, which I don't know where even that is even being talked about at this point, or if it still is in the offices or whatnot. We know at one point in time and a couple points in time it has been, but I think for me, I just think there's a focus on 4 years from now or that sort of time period with the TV contracts. And yeah, if you can go get NC State and a Louisville and a Miami, although they might have a bigger offer, but some combination of those types of schools, I think that's much more appetizing, much more additive than going, hey, before that, let's go get Tulane and USF. And okay, you're the American.
Yeah.
I mean, you already are half American, but now you're just going like, the majority is now former American schools from the last 5 years or like schools. And so I don't think that's productive for the league's image or their reputation or where they're trying to see themselves. With all due respect to those schools, I just feel like if you're doing that after you've added another layer of a bit bigger programs, if that makes sense.
Okay, Garrett, can you take that graphic and go full screen without us on it?
Let me see here.
Is that possible? So I want you guys just for a second to stop for a second and we'll get back to some of the responses, which there were a bunch. Which of those schools has more than just the logo? 2 things more than just the logo. For example, Baylor's got the Bear Cougars in Houston. Which of the schools on that map have 2 different images to represent their school? Besides like UCF has the knight, the rocket ship, and maybe a palm tree.
Man,
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Somebody brought up West Virginia.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have the level of ADHD you do.
I'm saying, man, like for real.
My mind.
So what is?
Let's stop down the conversation to play Where's Waldo on here.
No, I had to. The Utah is the mountains, and then what's above that?
It looks like their mascot.
Yeah,
their little bird.
Yeah,
the Ute or whatever. Yeah.
All right, they have 2.
Yeah.
All right, you guys go back to.
They only gave BYU 1.
Well, because it's a Utah map. They're the ones.
Exactly.
They're the ones that put the map up. Yeah. I guess you could say Arizona and Arizona State both have the big cactus attached to also the Sun Devil and the hat.
I'm trying to figure out what that is like with the line running to TCU.
Is that oil wells?
That looks like the fountains that are in the middle of campus.
Oh, okay. Thank
you. I thought it was a bunch of oil, but that would be out towards the Texas Tech and Red Raiders.
Here's the thing. I think part of the problem here that got to this point, and I think I see where they derailed on the map. See, the Cougar is playing with the basketball. He's like rolling it out to the ocean.
There's no
getting ready for that game in Mexico.
Mexico, but like rolling it out to Mexico there when. And he's facing, kind of southwest there when he really needs to be facing southeast, and then he could be in the direction. And if they had made it facing that way, they could have put Houston where Houston is because the Bears just sitting.
Yeah, the Bears just like lonely. It's
sitting there
right
staring.
There in Corpus Christi. Okay, back to the topic. Sorry, guys, I lost my thought. How about that? Let's see.
Can we shoot you with a bullet of Adderall?
No, that's fine. I've been trying to get a prescription for it for a long, long time. Syracuse, Pittsburgh. See, this is too much. Syracuse, Pittsburgh, USF, and Louisville. Okay, Big East football. All right, those are Big East football.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gauging opinions, anybody can have as many teams as they want. We don't have to agree with the amount. So I think. What was that combination? The
Syracuse, Pitt, USF, and Louisville. So
to add to the Big 12
was USF? Were they ever in the Big East, Paul?
Who?
USF.
Yeah.
I don't
because
remember.
they said Big
no
East
idea.
football. That's maybe for a smidgen.
Yeah, they were. They were in the Big East in 2005.
Okay. All right, thank you. This is from Corey. All right. None. You continue to wait to see what happens with the ACC. We have a lot of that. That's one of the more common themes of the responses.
Yard Team Craig. Yeah. Yard Team Craig, because that's where I am as well. I think it's fun to speculate and all of that. And so I'm open to all that. But I think, like, hey, what's the actual, like, real deal play here? It's, you sit and wait and you let this conference in its current iteration at 16. We're just sitting here 30 minutes ago complaining, and I don't know if complaining is the right word, but acknowledging again how large these conferences are and how kind of ridiculous it is, where it takes like an hour to preview everybody if you want to touch on every team. The fact that you have teams that don't play like 5 other teams in their league for a year or two, and then you don't play some teams home and away. Hell, the A&M Georgia comparison we always make about how they've never played, what is it, in College Station, and
since they joined the league,
been there nearly 20 years now at this point. Like,
13.
I mean, I just think those Frankenstein conferences are a little bit ridiculous. So rather than like, hey, let's add 3 or 4 teams right now just cause, and then go add 4 more. I mean, if we eventually get to where there's 3 leagues and everybody's got like 25 teams, then great. But in the meantime, we're not there and it doesn't make any money. So I think you're sitting going, all right, let's do what we can and make the most and maximize the 16 that we have, and have our guns ready to fire when the moment comes that we need to add 17, 18, 19, 20, or whatever that landscape looks like.
Anyone bringing up any team from the Big Ten, or again, it's your opinion, and that's fine. We wanted that. But anyone bringing up any program from the Big Ten and the SEC, you're wasting your ink. Because I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, because we never thought what we see now is going to happen. They're not going to give up 60, 80, 90, $100 million to get $38 to $45 million.
Yeah, and look, to be fair to the people who answer the question, it said if you were a Big 12 commissioner for a day, it doesn't mean that you're a good commissioner.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, hey, if you could add Nebraska back, you'd do that, and you wouldn't even think about it. Texas, A&M, all of them, you'd bring them all back if you could. But yeah, they didn't go to the lengths they did to get where they are to then turn back around and go back where they were, and so that's the reality of it. But again, you ask an open-ended question,
we're getting answered.
Who you can see, then you'd like to see those teams back, and I can understand that.
Moose said inviting both Houston and UCF to leave.
I see a lot of flack for those two in particular, not BYU at all, because I think that they've pretty well established themselves, that they've got a large fan base to the point that people are like, I mean, kissing their ass on a daily basis, basically, because they've got such a large fandom, and they've brought a lot to the table in a very short amount of time. They're investing in basketball. They're investing in football. They stand to be good in those sports for a foreseeable future. Again, the fan base is like almost like none other in terms of which a lot of that comes down to the church factor. So it's unique in that way, but they've been additive. Certainly, you never see, my point being that, let's get rid of BYU unless it's from a Utah fan. And then
they would miss them, even though they say they wouldn't.
And then I don't know if there was ever really time enough to get around to like Arizona State or those schools, but I think because they were packed schools that it's just widely accepted, like, you're on our level, like you belong and you've won titles and you've done things. And then Arizona State, if there was any doubt about them, like, they quickly diminished that because they came in and won the league in year 1, and now they look like a really hot brand.
And their overall athletic department's been good too.
So I think when it comes down to that conversation, there are a lot of people I see that want to kick Cincinnati out. They want to kick UCF out. And who was the other? Or were those the two that you mentioned? Houston.
Here's somebody thinking outside the box, Craig and Paul. Any school from Brian that helps West Virginia travel issues provides the possibility of hold conference events in the major sports east of the Mississippi.
I mean, I think they might do that eventually anyway.
I do too. Yeah. I think if there will be any additions, I think what it would be most likely would be somehow to give Cincinnati, West Virginia, and UCF a travel partner.
They should have their eyes on that, and there's not really anywhere else to go, guys. I mean, where else are they going to go? They go north. I'm sorry, there's kind of some teams that are already plucked away by the Big Ten there. You going west? Well, you've already done that. You've already gone out there and grabbed the schools that you did. So, yeah, there's only one way to really look, and that's eastward. And so I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, Cincinnati's not super close to West Virginia, but it's closer than everybody else was. Adding the UCF, again, not like it's a drive or anything like that, but did add at least an element on the East Coast. So I think if you could, go grab an NC State. Again, I don't know how realistic like a Georgia Tech would be. I think they might be somebody that gets plucked away that helps lead to you now being able to go get the other teams. But a Miami potentially, although I'm sure their fan base would be like, no, we're going to the Big Ten. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But the ones that you feel like aren't going to immediately be in the conversation of Louisville, NC State, now all of a sudden you look around and you feel a lot better about where West Virginia is. They're not just in the middle of quote unquote nowhere. They're still not super close to all those schools because the East Coast is very large, but it's a lot better than every game being in Texas or Oklahoma or Kansas for the Mountaineers.
The one thing, and this is a good comment, really good, this is because I agree with it, but whatever you do, whoever you add, whenever that time comes, you must make sure that you are the third best overall power conference.
Sacramento State. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's the goal, right? And that's why I think that ultimately that's why you're sitting and you're waiting out who is arguably the third best conference right now. Now, you might say that you are, and depending on what metric you're looking at, I think ultimately the ACC conversation about who's number 3 or number 4 boils down to the same thing. People point to their brands at the top of the league. That's the differentiating factor. They have national championship football, big-time brands at the top of their league, Clemson and Florida State and Miami, that the Big 12 does not have. And that's the difference, but that's the only major difference. And that's the only thing in my mind that's keeping the Big 12 from being arguably number 3 if they're not already. So that changes quickly if all of a sudden that league starts to get shaky and those big brands that are making them the number 3 suddenly aren't in that league anymore. And then you swoop in and you grab the best of the rest. And you are a solid established number 3 because what does the ACC look like on the other side of that? Not as strong as you. There's no way. I think that's why you're being calculated in your moves because, hey, Memphis would be a feel-good thing, and, oh, man, we got a couple $1 million. All right, what about a week later? Now you got Memphis on the schedule in all these different sports, and it's like, oh, cool, I guess, but didn't add any money to the league, like, overall for the TV package necessarily or what have you, and so I just don't think you need to make those moves, although it's fun for people to just want to play risk and just go like, we grabbed this one and this one and this one, and now we've got all the – it's like, yeah, but you got 30 teams, and they're all making half the money they were making if you would have been 16 and not added all these teams. So, I think they're firmly eyeing that number 3 spot, and the way to get there is to be patient. In my mind.
Somebody who asked about is Cincinnati close to West Virginia. Ask Michael DeHart, who's in that area. I live 2.5 hours from Cincinnati and 2.5 hours from Morgantown. I'm in near Charleston. They were in the same conference for a while too, with West Virginia and Cincinnati. That was a Big East for sure back in the day.
I would love to see. Like, I know it would be more. Like if you really just 20 years ago had said, okay, let's make this all make sense and move some teams around. Like, let's make sure we strengthen the Big East and give them what they need. And, the Big East that used to be a good conference, football wise. But again, it fell by the wayside and all that. And that's what happens. Southwest Conference, Big East, Pac-12, they come and go. Right. And whatever happens. But, I can just tell you as a person who, since Miami's been in the ACC, the Florida State-Miami rivalry has kind of sucked comparatively to when they were in different conferences, playing a non-con game every year. And it should have been better, but it's not been additive for either team or necessarily the conference overall.
Yeah, that's surprising to hear that. You'd think that would add something, not detract from something. But, we'll see if they are linked together in 10 years from now. And just so it's well established, like, my opinion is just my opinion on this. I tend to look at it from like as real. I tend to look at everything from like the realistic point of view. And so sometimes I can maybe miss the big picture, super imaginative idea that goes a different direction. And I'll acknowledge if I'm wrong and there's a better idea out there. But when it comes to something like realignment, I think I base myself in what's realistic. And realistically, the best move for the Big 12 is not to blow up and be at 20 teams before the next TV deal and have, Memphis gives us a couple $1 million a year, but is our TV deal now less because of them, or what does that look like? So I'm all about, at this stage, you've kind of added your I don't want to call it filler because I don't feel that way, but you've added the teams to stabilize yourself. The Pac was a coup that we did not see coming when the Oklahoma-Texas situation was unfolding, and so that suddenly falls into your lap. You didn't have to necessarily – you did have to force it in some ways. You did, but we didn't know that was on the horizon. So who the hell knows what happens in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years that could create another situation that we don't even know, that all of a sudden wow, they're available, and they're real. It's we don't know because we didn't expect a lot of this stuff to happen the way that it has.
Can you imagine now if the Big 12 didn't have those 4 schools? Well,
the Pac would be a conference and
unless something else happened with them and they did. But the
Pac would be a conference that was more like its original self and not this version of it.
Unfortunately, not, because it was good to have them when they were full throttle. And then Jayhawk Champ, I'll wrap it up with this. Tulane and USF do not give you what Pitt, Duke, or Syracuse. I don't know if anyone in the chat room that said that. If they did, that's not even an argument, or anyone here, that Tulane and USF, with all due respect to them, again, we're not talking about downgrading anybody, but Pitt, Duke, and Syracuse would be, if you had that option, there's no doubt what you would do.
Well, you did bring those names up earlier, so maybe just responding to them being mentioned. But, those would all be – I think that's the thing, is that for the people that play Fantasy Booker on Realignment, you can sit there and look at the ACC and see there's quite a buffet to be had if there is an actual ability to go and choose what you want there eventually, which – some tend to believe that will be the case in the next few years. And there's reasons out there publicly to believe that will be the case because of the litigation and just the way things are going. So, yeah, if you're playing on the buffet line, I think sometimes what you fall into, though, is there's a lot of enticing options. And next thing you know, you're going, oh, damn, we got a 26-team league because we decided to eat everybody. And it's you don't really want to do that. But, yeah, Pitt would be interesting.
Eating
Syracuse.
Something to just eat because you think you're hungry.
Well, that's what I'm talking about when playing Risk. It's let's just conquer territory for the sake of conquering and then sort it out later. And it's nah, it's probably not the best option. You probably need to be calculated about what you take so that you're not getting bloated on empty calories, if you will.
The last part in the chat from Brady. Craig, you're 100% right about waiting. Just hope it's a regional ad again at some time, a regional conference at some point. Garrett?
Are y'all surprised that Wazoo and Oregon State didn't get brought up in this?
I think there was one response that brought up one of each, but it was
kind of says something about the state of where they're at right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm still not giving up on them. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything that but God, they just were left on an island. And Stanford Cal would have been left on an island too if it hadn't been for them. Okay, damn it, we'll have to join the ACC.
I think there was the opportunity, obviously, in the Pac-12. That's a great question, Garrett, because, we didn't even acknowledge them. I think now it's a little bit more on the back burner because they're putting in all this effort to basically be the kings of this new league. And I know there's this – how do I say this? There's this daydreaming that I see certain accounts do, especially with Oregon State, about the Big 12. It's dude, if the Big 12 wanted you, they would have already had you. And there's a reason why they didn't take you the first time, because the money and the interest wasn't there for whatever reasons that may be. The TV networks didn't give you the dollars to make it make sense. The travel wasn't enticing enough because you are a bit further out than everybody else. But that's clearly still their goal, which is interesting because you're forming this pack, and then meanwhile your fans but the moment we get so it's no different than the Big 12 schools who are let's take everybody, but the moment the SEC calls, we're out of this son of a bee. So everybody's going to ultimately serve their best interest. It wasn't in the best interest of the Big 12 to add them for TV network purposes or monetary purposes or travel purposes or whatever it was. I don't know that changes unless we get to a point where you've gobbled up a bunch of stuff out east, and next thing you know, we are in the era of 3 24-team conferences. Then I think that's realistic for them. But, yeah, I think in terms of, any urgency, no, the urgency would have been there last summer, and there was no urgency.
I think 3 24-team conferences would be a disaster if it ever gets to that point. I think right now where you are, you're on the edge of being so bloated that even with the way you could try to decide the college football playoff, it's hard to decide who your conference champion is, no matter if it ends up being the best team.
You can't put any more toppings on this pizza.
There you go.
Well, that's my point.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
If you do, then it just –
that's my point.
I cannot believe you kick off anchovies.
Because if it was up to some people who just are of the mind of like, hey, more is better. Well, then they would have added another 6 schools by now, and then maybe take some ACC schools, and then maybe
they would have added Boise State and a couple others.
Boise would be in, Oregon State would be in, Washington State would be in, a bunch of schools from the ACC, which that's potentially out there. But yeah, next thing you know, you look up and it's a 24-team league. We think it's bad now. No, that'd be awful unless you then break that into and then so that's a totally different world than the one we live in right now. But it might be the world we're in eventually.
You have to be quadrants.
Yeah, that's what you got to understand with the more and more and more teams. It's like, yeah, eventually you're just another big ass league.
Kim, Wazoo and Oregon State are in poor locations, but they're damn sure not bad schools.
No, they are definitely interesting schools. I think they've got terrific fan bases. I think that they fit actually really well in the Big 12 as far as culture and sort of just this kind of being on the same level. But I do wonder in the next couple of years, with far less of what they've had in their history matchups wise, and I know the money's kind of confusing because they got the big jackpot, but now they're in litigation over how much of that's going to go towards adding these new schools in the pack and whatnot. But just on a basic argument, yeah, they would be cool additions that I don't think people would have a problem with, but there are reasons like location and whatnot that clearly they weren't a part of what the Big 12 ended up doing a year ago.
Some of you that are and I poop on them, remember now the conference that you're talking about, a lot of you are fans of the Big 12, not all of you, have been close to that many times. Like, what are we going to do? Like standing around and there's no furniture left. And thank goodness they've been able to survive with additions on a couple of 2 or 3 occasions to get to where they are now.
Yes, that's true. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you have to just go, well, we were in trouble, so now you're in trouble and we've got to take you. Like, you don't have to play that game either. But yeah, I think there's probably some people that could potentially, when sort of poo-pooing on or whatever, realize like, hey, you were in that position, but at the same time, you're not now. And you're worried still about your position and your position only. So is your position bettered by adding those schools? If not, then no, you'd still be against it, even if you were in their shoes previously. You understand it. You feel for them. You hope that they make the best out of the situation they can, but that doesn't mean you have to take them into your league.
Right. By the way, more than one of you brought up Virginia Tech.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously a part of the ACC. They've played West Virginia 50-plus times, including just 2 or 3 years ago.
I apologize. We should have mentioned them.
Yeah,
I wasn't looking at a list of schools. I was just kind of just riffing here. So, yeah, I think that they would be in the same category as a Louisville. That would make a ton of sense.
Great fan base.
Yeah.
Super great traditions. Awesome stadium to play in. Blacksburg and Morgantown are the same. It's not like you can just, go there, and, there's – I kind of like that. Like, even though I'm not going there, I kind of like that it's hard to get to a couple of these places because it means like you're going to a college town, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world. I think that would be a great, if you're going to add an ACC school, actually Virginia Tech, even over maybe even Duke, who would be a good one to add to.
If we're talking, football, especially, Duke's ahead of them in football now too. Yeah. So
only if Frank Beamer can come back and be the head coach.
That's the thing. The thing though, is like the mystique that we remember is all in the '90s and early 2000s, and Enter Sandman on Thursday night on ESPN, and that's unfortunately our lasting kind of memory. And Kyron Jones and company are trying to change that a little bit, but yeah, the mystique is worn away.
Is gone. Yeah.
And he's been gone to the point where he's like, been retired longer than he's even been gone. He's been gone a while. But that's a school that I'm just not looking at a list, but they would absolutely be an interesting option for sure if they were to become available in some way.
The Big Ten and the ACC, the American Conference, others had media days this week and some still going on or about to start. The Missouri Valley. I love getting a chance to talk to coaches from the schools that are not a part of the Power Four or whatever the heck you want to call them. And North Dakota State is as good as anybody. Would they hold up in a big conference with the attrition? There are some FBS schools that have not done that. They are a dominant FCS school. Tim Polasek had a chance to visit with him thanks to Brandon Rowe earlier today. And some of what he has to say, Matt, is to me gold. He's next, and this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat with more pre-owned vehicles available. How about this one? 2021 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack wide body in rare gold rush form, just $9,000, 485 horsepower, wide body stance, Hemi roar. This is not a car, it's a statement, and that's available right now. How about this? Available for a really good price if you go by and talk with them about it and what's available right now. Also, style, space, savings. Alan Samuels, drive home the 2025 Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid Premium S, $9,000 off. 2024 Ram, 2,500, built to haul, tow, and conquer. Right now, yours for $43,864. David Gray, the general sales manager, Ted Teague, CEO and general manager. They have a very nice, I guess you could say, selection of pre-owned cars, and of course loaded with Ram and Jeep and so much more. Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Alan Samuels, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help us finally hear semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Dakota State football coach Tim Polasek with me on 365 Sports and the Bison. And anytime I love what the program has done. With Craig Ball, Chris Kleiman, everything as well, and what you did in winning the national title last year against a good buddy of yours at Montana State. What does, in your opinion, Bison football represent?
It represents, if you're going to use the term represent, it represents a storied tradition. I think our program has a great deal of respect for anybody that's played here, but most certainly anybody that's won a championship or have led the program. It's kind of interesting that we start here because in our program, we don't spend a lot of time with recruits talking about, you're the lifeblood of the program. You're everything to the program. Yep. It's actually, quite frankly, it's the opposite. We talk about the DNA of our program our institution, our athletic department, it's always about the former Bison and really paying respects to how they did things, the standards that they've laid down. And so you kind of got to earn the right to be a guy that gets to put the emblem on your helmet and the stripes. So I think our program represents a great deal of tradition, a winning culture. And, we have a saying around here, better people make better Bison. And I think we represent that as well as anybody. We just won the academic award for the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And quite frankly, that's kind of been a theme as we've improved and continued to try to win games. Our team GPA has always gone up.
I heard Steve Sarkisian at Texas mention that when he took over, their GPA was very low and they were 5-7. Next year it went up. And they went to a bowl game. The next year it went up, and now it's higher than it's been. And, of course, they're loaded, and we know that, and they have a lot going for them. But it does seem like it matches the dedication, commitment to being more than a football player.
It's everything that you read in books and hear from leadership. It's hard to be I read some, and, I read this book called The One Big Thing, right? Like, you got to pick the one thing you want to be great at. But not too many people that achieve their full potential are weak in every other area. It's like socially, academically, and on the football field for us, we want to compete and prove and be tough as hell. And then we want to work to reach our full potential in all those areas. And that's kind of the things that we talk about. But I just think there's a direct correlation with, hey, do the next right thing.
You have been a part of that program for quite some time, and then left, went to Wyoming. Craig Ball was there. He's now here in Waco at the American Football Coaches Association. What kind of influence has he had on your career?
Well, he's when I talk about, all the people that have impact my past, I most certainly refer to him as my mentor. He's a father figure for me. I know we're not going to be on this call long enough to talk about all that impact,
sure.
But I came here in 2006, didn't have a whole lot, and he gave me just a small chance. But every year he rewarded me with a little responsibility and a little bit of cash. I think in my third year here, I was making $18,000 total. But he really helped to develop me off the field, how to communicate with boosters, how to act at a dinner, how to, taste wine or have a bourbon. I mean, even those things I think about. Very much a father figure for me. And then, he's so instrumental in where North Dakota State's at today in the Division I era, because we're still following his baseline structure, baseline fundamentals of the program, and principles are still a lot of Craig Bowl things. And we don't want to deviate from that too far. He's an unbelievable leader. He's a great CEO for programs and for people. I really have a great deal of respect, and moreover, I love the man. So how do you make sure that success with all these national titles and even all that, the wins, that the people or the underclassmen, the younger players don't take that for granted? Yeah, we just had a freshman retreat where I go out and I spend about 4 hours with them or so. And I said, let's not get it twisted. You were recruited off all the success, but you haven't done a damn thing yet. But when I get to really thinking about it, you want to talk to each individual in today's game, right, about their legacy and what they're trying to leave and what they're trying to accomplish. Fighting complacency for us is just kind of a everyday, regular day thing, probably since 2012 or 13 when we went back to back. And then I'll even take it a step further. We've won 17 national titles as a program. I never get on one of these calls. I always want to do the best I can to pay respect to the teams in the 60s, the teams in the 90s. I mean, this is a winning program, and we want to be respectful of that. When you do win as much as you do, and then all of a sudden you went a couple of years without a national title, and is that a drought in North Dakota State history? Guys, it's ridiculous. It really, really, and I know that conference with South Dakota State and others, they're all good. I mean, it's a hellacious conference. But is it almost like, oh, my God, we haven't won in a couple of years? And then last year you, of course, got back and did it. Yeah, one of the things when I took the job, it's one of the things that really drew me to the job was the expectation level, the consistency with winning. But, I thought Matt Entz, last year or 2 years ago, that was one of the best coaching jobs I've seen done here. And you fall short. I mean, they hit a rough patch. They came all the way back. They played Montana tooth and nail all the way down to the wire. It's just, it kind of comes with the territory here. You know, you're a little bit of a product of all the past success. And so what we try to do is really eliminate distractions and focus on our football team, eliminating the big mistakes in games that could get you beat, and then really focus going on 1-0. And can we reach our full potential somewhere in the middle of November, at the end of November? Can we hit our stride and be playing our best football? And it sounds cliche, but it's been really positive for us to focus on a 1-0 mentality.
You have to have players, they move on in this day and age. How do you feel about the way you're set up for 2025?
Yeah, that's interesting. I gave some thought to that going into the media days, and I wanted to find a different angle to be able to talk about it. And then it occurred to me, I was looking at our roster and I was thinking about other people and the challenges out there in college football. We're at 88% recruited North Dakota State players, high school players.
I love it.
We got a fighting chance.
Yep.
And that's all you can really ask for. And we're eager and we're hungry. And so I'm really excited about it. I mean, we've got 110 recruited North Dakota State Bison, and we got 15 transfers.
So, you know, okay, then have you had people trying to poach your roster because of your success? How has that worked?
There's no question. I mean, Gray Zabel goes number 18 overall last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bryce Lance, you know, he's got to go do it again this year. But I even have moved past worrying about poaching. I really have, because it's so much now agent driven, and some of these agents are not certified. I know Coach Bull's working on that.
Yep.
You know, trying to get these guys certified or as part of a class, or at least get them sectioned out so our guys kind of can know who they're talking to. But I really have more concerns about the fake news that's out there from agents than I do coaches directly picking up the phone and trying to poach one of our guys. But I think I think all the P4s are watching the top 3 or 4 teams in not only our conference, but every FCS conference, and they're getting out in front of it, and they're watching that portal like hawks.
Tim, again, Tim Polasek with us, North Dakota State football coach. If somebody, or if you called, or your AD, Larson, called a team that's FBS, whatever, and wanted you or wanted to play or get a future game, do they hang up on him?
I don't even know if they take the call. It's probably one of our biggest challenges that we're concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're even reaching out to people at our level, and we're offering up home and homes.
Right.
With a little bit of a payday. I mean, we're willing to go on the road. We're not trying to just sit up here in Fargo and have people come play us up here. We have a saying around here, like, bring on the competition. We'll play anywhere, anybody, anytime. We've had a lot of success, and so we'll continue to work hard. They are to get games, but that's become more and more difficult for us.
Let me ask you this. Do you get a kick out of listening to what's happening at the FBS level, and they don't know how to figure out this playoff? You know, it was what you had, AP and UPI, and now they're at 12, and they're trying to get to 16, and it's a cluster. I mean, it's a political turf war about who does what, and you guys have been doing that in the FCS, and it's like it's smooth as silk. Can you please go talk to them?
Yeah, I wonder where the underlining arguments are. Is that more because one conference is playing 9 games and the other one's playing 8?
It's as much. It's a lot of it is that some conferences have a lot of national titles. I mean, the SEC. Yeah, how deep are they? That's the question. And then there's this. It seemed like it's an ego trip in some ways.
Right.
It's also protecting to make sure you get. But here's the thing: you guys start this year. There is no guarantee because of all the national titles that you're going to be in the playoffs. You got to go earn that, no matter who you are, what conference you're in, what you've done, the Bison history. And yet what some conferences at the highest level want to do is ensure that other than the champion of the conference that we have, or they have 4 out of the 12 or the 16. And it's driving fans crazy, by the way.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said, actually. I couldn't agree more with what, you know, if it just plays out, you know, you're going to have 2 or 3 teams in the playoff if you're the SEC or the Big Ten.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe 6. I mean, because there's a lot of at-large, and you guys do the same thing. But it's fun. Let me ask you: is there a day? And I know that if the answer was no, then you wouldn't be doing this. how much do you love what you do and also affect young men, and then watch when that light turns on as a human and also coach as a football player?
Yeah, the reason I coach is because I want to be in a really competitive environment. I love personal challenges. I love trying to get a team ready. I love competition. That's the first reason I coach. And then the second reason is, how many people can I help daily to reach their full potential? You know, as a true teacher, or, you know, I have a teaching degree. I have a master's in education. Those are the two reasons I coach. And so with all the new stuff going on in college football, it doesn't deter me much. I kind of really excited about these new challenges and seeing if we can do it better than everybody else, and seeing if Bison Nation can come forward and step forward and help us. So I really appreciate the challenges in the competition.
You were a quarterback growing up and also in college at Concordia. How did coaching get in your blood? That's my last question. And again, thanks for your time.
Yeah. Well, I had great people. My high school coach really made a big impact. There's actually several Division I coaches that are coaching from my high school, which is a very small central Wisconsin school. But Scott Erickson did an unbelievable job. And then I would also say this, like when I got to college, I was going there to be, you know, education. I was going to coach high school basketball and football. And then what I realized is, man, high school was fun, but I really liked the intensity level of college football and the teaching and the meetings. And I wanted that to be my classroom. So from the time I was about 16, I knew I wanted to teach. But when I got to be a freshman in college, I'm going to be a college football coach.
Well, you've done a hell of a job, and you've had a lot of great mentors. And Chris Kleiman's a friend of our show with K-State. Craig Bull is here. I mean, right here in Waco. He's a no-nonsense son of a gun, man. He is not going to be flamboyant. He's not. He is a hellacious football man, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I used to joke with him, like he had a way to lead people without saying a word, just walking in the room. And he could get you on edge by just being in the building. And he was phenomenal building our culture and reestablishing North Dakota State football. And then Chris Kleiman arguably maybe took it over and did it better than it was done before. And that's what we're trying to do this year, is do the job better than it's ever been done before.
Good luck, man. Have fun. I know fall workouts are fun. The Citadel to open up. Tim Polasek with us, North Dakota State Bison football coach on 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
I don't know why, Garrett, you had to make me feel I was pretty smart in school. My grades may not have proven that. I ended up with a 3.84 at SFA, by the way. But alphabetical order, when you have Ole Miss, it's really not. It's Mississippi. So we've already been through them, right?
No, we have not.
Okay, because we're putting them at Ole Miss.
So I checked this out because I went to the SEC website and I wanted to see how they had it laid out because of that exact situation. And then they had the M's first. They had Ole Miss as the O because nobody calls them Mississippi.
Yeah, but that's not the name of the school. But I get it. So it's Oklahoma's turn, correct?
Yes.
And Mississippi would be next, Ole Miss?
Ole Miss is tomorrow.
Okay. So, Craig Smoak, it is your fighting Boomer Sooner. Boy, do they need a bounce back, and here's their schedule.
So we're clearly going through schedules here and have been for a while now and have landed on Oklahoma because OK comes before OL. I don't know anybody that refers to Ole Miss as Mississippi, or at least I don't feel like I hear that very often. So Ole Miss is Ole Miss. I don't think there's that much confusion there, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think if you were walking around Mississippi and an old guy said, "Oh, down at the University of Mississippi,"
that'd be one thing, yeah.
People would be like,
but it's
okay.
Ole Miss, yeah.
Yeah, but
so,
University of Mississippi sounds better than just Mississippi. Yeah,
but Ole Miss sounds better than all of that. So
like nobody's like, "Hey, where you going next year?" Like, "Oh, I'm going to Mississippi."
I'm going to Mississippi. Yeah. It's OK before OL, and so here's Oklahoma, fresh off of a 6-7 season in 2024 with Brent Venables in his 3rd year, and with a lot of changes that have since taken place since 2024 wrapped up with a loss in their bowl game that was a thing that was actually in doubt at one point in time if they would even make that. But they did have that big surprising win, if y'all remember, over Alabama. That was a 3-touchdown win in Norman, and that got them bowl eligible. But then they proceeded to lose in 3-touchdown fashion to LSU in their trip to Death Valley, and then went down 21-20 in a thriller of a bowl game. A game we know very well, the Armed Forces Bowl. They fell to the Navy midshipmen last we saw OU. So since then, again, this is not a preview, but John Mateer and big-time additions through the portal, and the running back's name escapes me from Cal, Jaden Ott, and various other front office position moves, a new GM, and all of that. So Brent Venables, this is it, pal. Like you've got to go and win this year. And so what kind of a road is he facing as the Sooners try to not get bowl eligible, but try to be competitive and try to win the SEC and get into the college football playoff? Will it all start on Saturday, and all games for Oklahoma will be on Saturday. But the first one up on August the 30th, it'll be Illinois State in Norman, SEC Network game, weird 5 o'clock kickoff time for that one already announced. And then in week 2, we get a special, very interesting double dip of SEC Big Ten action, but particularly interesting because of the 4 teams involved, as we're going to get Texas, Ohio State on week 1, and then we're going to get Oklahoma, Michigan in week 2. So to have those 2 blood rivals playing each other, crossing over, I think is pretty unique and cool that we're going to get those 2 matchups. So yeah, Texas gets Ohio State, Oklahoma gets Michigan. They get them in Norman in week number 2. Then September the 13th, they'll hit the road for the first time and take on the Temple Owls out in PA, and then open up SEC play with the Auburn Tigers there on Saturday, September the 20th. That game is in Norman, and then they will get their first bye week of 2, as that is the norm this year once again. So first month, Illinois State at home, Michigan at home, at Temple, and Auburn at home.
There, you know what? We don't know how Sharon Moore gets Michigan if they're back to having, well, what you expect from them. Does that give OU a chance to have a much better start than I maybe thought of without even looking at the schedule?
I'd rather have them earlier than later.
Sure.
Bryce Underwood might win the starting job, but if he does, you've got a true freshman in his second career start that week against a defense that's probably going to be pretty good. So I don't know. I like that, and I do. Right? I really think that this is very interesting. You're going to know in that game where both teams are, and then to have Michigan and Auburn in that first month, really, you're going to learn a lot about who all those teams are.
One thing I say about Michigan, about Oklahoma and Texas, because we've done. I love the fact, and you wonder how long this will last, and I would think it will always have to be this way. And Texas, they play Ohio State, Michigan back-to-back if they could, but they always have what? They always have a fantastic non-conference game. No matter where Michigan is or they just always are. They're never going to dodge having one of those games.
They might eventually if it gets to the point where everybody's just going to be like Indiana and say, why play even tough games? We can just, waltz our way into the playoffs.
I still think Oklahoma and Texas are almost in that point where they I think that they'll unless they also become just an average.
I think they always will. I'm just saying, if there becomes a situation, but then again, how is everybody not going to play anybody? I don't know how that could work out. So, I think there are two teams that'll probably be willing to continue to play whoever, whenever, wherever. And you bring that up every time we talk about Oklahoma and Texas schedules. But, it's valid. And so, they're both playing the two teams from the game, respectively, this year. Texas and Ohio State, and then Oklahoma and Michigan. So there's a way you could see 4-0, and you could see them like really feeling themselves in that first month with a win over Michigan and a win over Auburn. I think that's all doable. And I think in the case of Michigan, the offense is the big question mark, right? Starting with your quarterback play. I mean, that's the question. But Oklahoma, better have a pretty good defense because of the fact that is their calling card at this point. So that might be a situation they can take advantage of a young Bryce Underwood. I don't know. But, that's a favorable matchup potentially for them.
One quick note, the next couple of years in 27, 28, the biggest named team on their schedule is SMU. So you wonder if there's going to be a mega game that they add to that schedule. Yeah.
There you go. So maybe they're already going the path of that. By the way, Cignetti, but it reminds me of the Baylor strategy. He sounds just like Art Briles, but without the baggage, at this point. But that was the exact same thing that Baylor was doing there for a while that eventually people turned on them for. And I think that'll be the case with Indiana as well. If they're winning 10, 11 games, but they're still playing nobody, then that's going to get to a point where people are, all right, you're not getting credit for rigging the system, basically. So at some point, you're going to have to start lining up some teams. But we'll see. That's all very questionable how it's all going to work in the future. But for Oklahoma, after their first bye week, October the 4th, Kent State, who I feel like we've seen 100 times throughout these schedules, but that's because they've got themselves one hell of a schedule. Kent State's playing Tech in Lubbock. They're playing Florida State in Tallahassee, and they're playing Oklahoma and Norman in their first 5 games. So that's fun for Kent State fans who love to travel to road games. That's a hell of a schedule. For everybody else, not so much, but Kent State there for Oklahoma. So 5-0 possible or 4-1, you should definitely expect so. But then let's get into really the heart of it. And look, Michigan will be a test. Auburn will be a test. But now they get into there's no SEC special on their schedule because they've now accounted for their non-con games so far. So it's all SEC after October 4th. And that October 11th game, of course, is a neutral site. It'll be OU, Texas, Red River, there on Saturday, October the 11th, followed by a road trip to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks and a very familiar face there in Shane Beamer. Then October the 25th, back home, hosting Ole Miss. Following week, and right before your second bye week, you are on the road at Tennessee. So that second frame, you've got fresh off the bye week, Kent State, that's a win. Texas at South Carolina, Ole Miss at Tennessee.
You want to talk about your SEC bubble? You always talk about, I just want to mention this right off the bat. How many teams could lose their starting quarterback they played $8 million for in the fashion they did and still be preseason ranked if they weren't, like Tennessee did?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Idea.
Absolutely.
Like, you have no idea who their quarterback's going to be.
For sure.
And I'm not saying that the rest of their team isn't nails, but like they lost their starting.
Paul, look at these recruiting rankings from the.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, but you have no, like, right now, Josh Heupel, every night before he goes to bed, downs like 7 Alka-Seltzers and is like, I hope this turns out okay. You know, like he's just done. But that is if those teams hold, right? Texas, we know, will be good, even if they're not as good as people think they are. They're still going to be good. Like, if they slightly don't match expectations, right? If they just not quite there, they're still going to be really good. South Carolina, kind of the same thing. Like if they just slightly don't, if they're just as good as they were last year and no better, still really good. Ole Miss, you know, I think will be a little bit back, but still a tough one. And then Tennessee, we don't know about. That is a tough 4-game stretch, and we're not even talking about the 3 they have after the bye.
Yeah, this is what you signed up for. This is exactly what you wanted, but you can tell though from a fan perspective, this is freaking awesome. Like look at this list of teams that you're just going to and from that are all like big name teams.
It's like the girls Derek Jeter banged list.
Yeah, exactly. So
their last 7 games are against teams that will be ranked at the start of the year, and then that doesn't include, of course, the Michigan game and whatever Auburn is.
Yeah, and probably 5 of those 7 could lose a couple games and it'll still be ranked no matter what.
Or three.
Yeah. So then you get into the third and final frame after you've traveled to Knoxville, you get a break, and then a 3-game stretch to close the year, and you will be in Tuscaloosa on Saturday, November the 15th against the Crimson Tide. Then the following week at home against Missouri in a renewed rivalry with the Tigers that dates back to the early 1900s and now multiple conferences. And then after that Mizzou game, you will have LSU there at the end of the schedule. This game in Norman, as of course the schedule just flips from a year ago when they closed things out in Death Valley and got bludgeoned by the Tigers. But yeah, there you go. There's the schedule for Oklahoma in 2025. Really interesting non-con game against Michigan. And then, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mizzou, LSU all coming to your place, and you're going to, and the Texas neutral side, of course, but you're going to South Carolina, you're going to Tennessee, you're going to Alabama. 4 true road games, and then the neutral site. So that maybe is, I know everybody's pretty much got their 7 home games if you've got anything about you, but, maybe that works in their favor. I don't know, but there is OU's schedule.
All right, man. It's all about the algorithm, guys.
I think it's 8 wins, man.
You think 8 wins?
I think 8 wins. Seriously,
I may be foolish to say this. I have a feeling that game, the Michigan game, separates them from either getting to a bowl game somehow or a team that could win 8 or 9 games.
I just think looking at it from my perspective, I think you could beat Michigan. I think when you get into SEC play right there, Ole Miss and Tennessee, that's back-to-back dubs that they can get. Missouri, they should beat. And then Alabama, it's going to Tuscaloosa is going to be difficult, but you smoked them last year.
And a lot of people will tell you that Alabama's not like the most difficult place in the world to play.
No, and here's the thing. Sometimes, and it doesn't make sense, Kansas State almost always beat Texas.
Yep.
Texas always beat Nebraska. There are certain teams that just have a number. It's early on, but maybe for Oklahoma, maybe they'll be to Oklahoma what Kansas State was to Texas. I know that's weird.
They've beat them the last couple of times they played. Yep. So, they went and beat them in Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. They beat them last year at home, and now let's see if they can go, do it in Tuscaloosa. But I think you're onto something, Garrett. I think there's every reason to be optimistic. Now, I definitely wouldn't go like 10-2 or that far with it, but 8-4 I think is very realistic. That'd be a step up from last year. I think it just depends stylistically how satisfied people would be with that. But that's a step up for sure. And I think given just the names on here, you're like, that wouldn't be pretty bad at all.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said about Bryant Denny. It's not like the the classically toughest place. Like, it's tough to play because they're always good.
Right.
But, like, the atmosphere.
That taints the overall record, though, in some ways, was that they were so dominant for so long that, the home record looks great.
Yeah, the home record. So they're good. But as far as, and I've been to, I would say, half the stadiums in the SEC anyways. And when it comes to just measuring up against those, like if you measured up against Gaylord Family Stadium, I would say it's much more tough to play in Norman as far as the effects of the fans than it is in Alabama. The Alabama fans are into it, but it is kind of like they're like when you're playing in front of their fans, you're just playing a great team and you're trying to serve a meal in a 5-star restaurant. So like they're just like, the foie gras was below, like they're so elite and they have such this standard of what they're watching that it takes a lot of drama.
And Saban used to mention that
to get their asses out of the seat.
They're 91-5 at home since 2008.
Exactly. And because they're so good, I remember the day that I was there, they were just walloping A&M, and like their fans are like, yes, this is about what I expected.
Yeah, they're spoiled.
Yeah. Pish posh, off with you. It didn't feel like the pregame atmosphere was the balls, man. It was absolutely great. And then you go in and everybody's just like, oh, please watch the Lions eat the Christians.
Yeah.
They don't have a shot.
I mean, there's the non-cons you play at home, so that gives you probably 2 or 3 wins a year, but their road record is much different. You brought up this 2008 thing. Well, if we want to go 2008, they're like 64-28 on the road. So that's a big difference. So it's not like Bryant Denny doesn't matter, but it's also context, and I don't want to get roll tide or hey, pow.
Yeah.
We're not saying Bryant Denny's not a tough place to play, but it's not Death Valley.
Well,
it's tough to play because you're playing against a juggernaut.
Here's another thing.
Yeah.
A lot of their non-conference games have been neutral over the years. I say a pretty good chunk of them.
So a lot of those road losses are like USC or Michigan or, along those lines type of teams.
The 19 LSU Tigers, who were always right, Garrett, overrated.
Oklahoma.
They beat Alabama by 5. Ole Miss upset them in 15. A&M and Manziel. LSU 9-6 in 2011. Was that the year that then Alabama went back and won the national title?
Unfortunately.
Auburn beat them in 10. And Texas, of course, 2 years ago, went into Tuscaloosa for the first time and beat them. Those are 6 of the losses in the last, let's say, 15 or 18 years.
I mean, I'm not
all
saying
of them are good teams.
I don't think they're going to go in there and win that game right now on paper, but is it doable? Yeah, absolutely is the point. So, yeah, they've got some winnable games on here.
Craig, you got any thoughts about the Jackson Arnold Bowl or his return there with Auburn?
No, I haven't really dove into the messiness of like just the whole split and all of that. I think it was best for all parties, and I think that that would obviously add some fuel to it. But I'm not like kick Jackson Arnold's ass, you know what I mean? Like I'm not. It's nothing personal for me. I think it probably is so for some fans, and there's probably also a little bit of worry of like, what if he comes in there and he just stunts on you, and then you go, oh damn, so we were the problem, kind of thing. So that's what that's what comes to mind is like, were you the problem or was he the problem, or are you both just like way better off now and you just didn't need to be together? I think is hopefully what the answer is for all parties. So, yeah. As far as who they do not play, unless it would be in the SEC title game, no Arkansas on this schedule, which, would be a pretty fun game given their proximity right next to each other. But no Arkansas, no Florida, no Georgia, no Kentucky, no Mississippi State. No Texas A&M and no Vanderbilt for Oklahoma on the schedule. So they missed out really, but they got most of like the big top name teams, I think, in the league. Like the only one that they didn't would be Georgia. And beyond that, I mean, Florida's a name, but so I guess you'd include them there maybe as well. But Kentucky, Arkansas, Vandy, Mississippi State, like those are all kind of the bottom. And then there's A&M. Now that's one where that would have been a big deal and a name game and a lot of history. So I'll include the Aggies as far as a big one that you miss out on, but you don't miss out on much. But with all their improvements, there's Oklahoma and their path to whatever Brent Venables has in store for year number 4.
Thank you, Craig. OU, who's next?
Ole Miss.
Okay. Miami, the longest all-time home winning streak with 58 games. I think Washington is the one that may have ended that. Alabama is number 2 all time. 57 straight, but that was back when a guy named Bear Bryant was roaming the sidelines from 1963 to 1982.
Yeah, and if Saban hadn't called out their own fans multiple times over the years, maybe I wouldn't be as comfortable in saying, like, it's not that big of a deal to go and play there, and definitely don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but he kind of set them up for that narrative because he himself was the top dog and it was saying, like, this isn't good enough and it should be better. But I definitely can understand fans just getting a bit spoiled. I mean, quite frankly, with what you gave him filet mignon for like 20 years in a row, dude.
Nick, quit kicking everybody's ass then.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull back on the throttle and give them some drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the other thing, is that you go in there and when you're so used to seeing blowouts.
Yeah, not just wins, but blowouts.
I'll just tell you I think Florida State's kind of the same way, because when I was in Tallahassee, you walk in and they're playing Wake Forest and they win 31-3. And you're like, okay, well, that was fun before, and the first quarter was good, but there's only the true believers like me that stay until the bitter end because we're curious to see the third string quarterback play, like the sickos, like I was. But most everybody else
were drunk and couldn't walk.
Well, by the end of the game, I was ready to walk.
Yeah.
But by the end of the game, I'm curious to those things. But there were times where it had to get tense for everybody to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, now we got to focus.
There's that murmur in the crowd that gets a little nerve-wracking.
So Garrett just popped off an 8-4. They're over under 7.5. So
nice.
you're right in line, and I think I'd go over as well. I feel like that's doable. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem going over on 7.5, but not by much for sure.
Garrett, you got a couple of super chats. Do we have we put those up today?
Let me check.
There's a couple of super chats in the wicket. Okay. Kim Coulter, $1.99. The last one that came in was Polasek was a fantastic interview. Thank you, Kim. And also, retired stockbroker. He did not realize that he lived west of the middle of Texas in Houston, the Houston area. He's not from Houston area, but he's a Houston Cougar. $1. Thank you. You're welcome.
Look, most people would confuse where the Alamo is for where San Jacinto is. It's different. So it's the same. So
thank you to who have been in the chat. We always, and a lot of it was from the Be a Commissioner for the Day that Andrew had that up, not only on Twitter, but also in the chat room. Have we got everything that we
got one
said?
Thing for you. You want the Myron Rhule.
Yeah, Paul, you love Myron
I
Rhule.
do.
Who doesn't love Myron Rhule? And what a great story about him.
If I ever get brain surgery, this is the guy.
He was a Rhodes Scholar, correct?
He was.
And a hellacious football player. He posted this, publicly announced that I'll be joining Memoirs Children's Hospital in Orlando as an attending pediatric neurosurgeon. Clinical focus on
stuff.
A
lot of bad stuff, but he's going to try and fix
brain tumor, spinal disc. He has been, I've followed him. I've read articles about him, features about him. I've seen interviews. He is an amazing young man. Could have been a great NFL player, was a great college player, and now a great human being and a doctor. Surgical doctor.
Was he a great college player?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying like he was. I'm saying like I can't even really remember.
I mean, he was a mid-round draft pick, but he was so good. And he is what started the Renaissance under Jimbo Fisher.
Third-team All-American.
Yeah, he was
a freshman. He was a first-team freshman All-American.
Yeah, he was fantastic. It just did not.
So you might be right, Craig.
Yeah, I absolutely. He was great. And
went to Oxford.
So I will tell you that I think Myron Rhule and the public, how much people paid attention to him being a Rhodes Scholar and going to play football at a school like Florida State, which was not academically bad, but kind of academically second tier, spurred them along to improve their academics so much that I have friends that say, like, I wouldn't get in there now because it's a much tougher school. And that's all post Myron Rhule.
Sounds like propaganda.
But it's probably, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I do think Myron Rhule did play a little bit of a role in them going like, hey, maybe we cannot be the school where you pick up the most chicks.
Student athlete actually meant something to him.
Yeah.
6th round pick. I wonder if his draft pick was changed because of the possibility people thought he'd end up not playing long. He played with the Titans and Steelers. So there's a note about him. But what a great story.
I remember his story and all that went with that. I just don't remember the level of his playing career in the blink of a moment, not thinking about him. I knew he was solid, just to not what degree. But
now they didn't. He was in the first wave, so that he didn't he wasn't there when the great stuff happened. But he was certainly a part of building to it.
He's a great story though, and certainly somebody that you can point to and say, look up to this guy and follow his footsteps. If you're going to follow the football path, also go and make the most of your degree opportunity and all that comes with that. And I know it's a different era now, but back then, he was certainly a unique story, probably even more unique now, actually. But what a fantastic player. I remember him being a highly rated dude and all that, and just the part about also having this ambition to go and explore the medical field. What a career he's carved out for himself.
All right, Bracket Cat making sure he reminded everybody that Kansas State used to give Oklahoma hell, and not only just Texas, but also that one Big 12 championship game was a nightmare for Oklahoma. Back in, 2006, 7, or 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina with his top 5. Also, Andrew Valade, and he has, of course, the poll results. We'll have that and more. This is 365 Sports.
Ideal,
MRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey, love the guy. Unbelievable what he's done as a businessman. And he's a doctor, too, by the way. And he is one of the owners and partners of Ideal MRI, located in the Central Texas marketplace on the south part of I-35 in Waco. It's where you get imaging of ligaments and muscles, or what is creating chronic and also like pain that shuts you down. It also could be where you just have some pain and maybe you tore something, a ligament in your knee, which I hope that didn't happen. A shoulder injury. They get the state-of-the-art imaging machine is going to give the doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, family doctor, whoever orders and requests the MRI, they will get it loud and clear. State-of-the-art imaging machine, and then also the fact it's only $497. I said that for an MRI that the average is about $1,100. IdealMRI.com.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into the top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. And if you're saying, by God, Paul, that shirt is snazzy as hell, guess what? It's Flag and Anthem. Very patriotic, too. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. These are teams to have low expectations for. The exact opposite of the expectations you should have when you go to flagandanthem.com. That's why I'm the best in the business, folks. I don't know if I'm the best in the business. I feel bad for saying that. Anyway, teams to have low expectations for. Number 5. Sorry, bookworms. It's going to be a rough year at Stanford. I think Andrew Luck will eventually get that program pointed in the right direction as their new general manager. But 1 year with Frank Reich, this is just to kind of smooth things over. The portal is kind of eating them up a little bit. I mean, their best players went to Tech and Texas. Their quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, who they might have even started this year, is on his way to BYU, and he might start there. Who knows? We don't know now. All of that's been kind of ravaged through for Stanford. It's going to be a rough year for them, but things are always darkest before the dawn. Number 4, UCLA. I know you're excited about Nico Iamaleava. I get it. I would be too if I was a UCLA fan. He's the most talented quarterback you've had there in quite some time. But what do you have around him? If his beef was the roster at Tennessee, man, his beef is going to be a Flintstone-sized rib that leans over the car at UCLA. They are still in the infancy of Deshaun Foster's program, so best of luck to Nico and UCLA, but it might be a bit of tough sledding. Number 3, Kentucky. Zach Calzada has a magical win over Alabama in his career when he was at A&M. He can also throw the ball through a brick wall. But that hasn't stopped him from being at 4 schools so far in his career, most recently at where quarterbacks go to resurrect themselves, Incarnate Word. We'll see if Incarnate Word helped him out, but I don't think what they have around him at Kentucky, considering they lost their best receivers to LSU and Nebraska, respectfully, they lost those guys. I don't know if they have enough around him to really win. I think the fan base has kind of gotten bored of Mark Stoops, and if they have another down year, he is going to have to hit the bricks. Number 2, Mississippi State. Blake Shapen comes back as quarterback. I don't think that lasts very long. He's not a guy who's been able to maintain his health for a whole season. But we love Blake Shapen here. Great guy. Wish him the best. I think he'll do well. But I don't think it's going to last very long, and that means Luke Kromenhoek steps in. He transferred from Florida State last year. He has a lot of potential, but I just don't think Levy and the guys are there yet. Probably need another year or two to kind of get their roster in order. And finally, number 1, UCF. I know that there's a lot of hope that Scott Frost is back. There's a weird vibe around him right now, and he needs to get back and coach football and get some wins and find his sea legs again. It was an awkward conversation that we had, I think. Wouldn't you say it was a little bit awkward at Big 12 Media Days?
Very awkward.
That kind of everybody had with him. It was just an odd thing. He seems like only like 80% as excited as he should be to get back in, and that worries me. There's a lot kind of going on with him. He needs to get in a good headspace. I think it could be potentially good, but they have kind of a mess at quarterback. The roster has shifted too much. So if you're a UCF fan, at least for this year, lower your expectations. But again, like I said with Stanford, things are always darkest before the dawn. Well, that's going to do it for us. Andrew Relate has polls. Smokey's going to read them.
Thank you very much. We've done the super chats, and now Andrew's poll results today. 1, where should Travis Hunter focus his efforts for the Jacksonville Jaguars this season? And this is really very, very much split. 34% wide receiver, 30% play both ways, and 28% cornerback.
I would say split both ways. I think let Travis Hunter be Travis Hunter.
8% not sure.
Yeah, I mean, you drafted him to be a dual threat, right? So let him be a dual threat. So, yeah, I'd say split both ways, and that's where I would take you. But franchise really needs a good kick in the pants, and I think that maybe he's finally like the guy to help them do that. But, what a special player. Excited to see what he can do in the NFL.
Trevor Lawrence, is he on the clock? Did they sign him to a big deal? I don't know. I think he has a new extension.
No, he's got a deal just like Dak Prescott,
Okay.
so he's
right.
a little protected.
Next poll. What's your favorite Ozzy Osbourne career moment? And Black Sabbath era, 36%. Ozzy's solo career, 33%. Backbiting incident, 21%. And the Osbourne's TV show. I watched that a couple of times at 11%.
Well, mine's the Osbourne TV show. Although I'm not like a self-professed Sabbath fan, so I like some of their songs, but I'm not someone who would be like, yeah, Sabbath. It's just not.
Paxton in the chat said
deal.
solo career. Craig?
I worry for the 21% that went with the bad biting incident.
Yeah.
I guess E would be peeing on the Alamo. Would that be another
Definitely got to be in there.
potential one?
My favorite part of his explanation of that story is he got in trouble. Everyone got mad because they thought it was some act of like social, like protest or something, like screw Texas and screw the Alamo. He was just so screwed up stumbling around downtown. He walked up to a wall to pee and peed. And the wall was the Alamo.
And if it had happened in this day and age, we'd have pictures all over TMZ and there'd be a million accounts telling you that it was political and it was a statement on the state of Texas. And it's really like he was just drunk and he peed somewhere. He didn't realize what it was. But I'd say I'm like Paul. There's some Sabbath and Ozzy songs I like, but not somebody that's in my rotation or ever has been. So Osbourne's show, I think, is really what endeared me to him.
I tried to tell Paxton this yesterday evening. He was devastated. And but he started asking me about certain, like, you got to understand me. I don't really remember or connect too many actual bands or the singers to any of the songs. I'm not good at that. There's some, I like the Eagles, Journey, etc., and obviously Elton John, but I just did not know some of what he was connected to. S. Michael DeHart, Black Sabbath. Kim Coulter, Black Sabbath. General Ursus, I voted for the bat biting. So there we are. Thank you very much for a lot of you that were a part of that today.
The Osbourne show was just so funny because of him. And Sharon, like, I didn't care about the kids. Like, they're fine. But, like, he and Sharon, where he just, like, Ozzy. I mean, it was just the way they spoke to each other. And then they had this really, like, endearing kind of sweet relationship, even though, like, it was rocky as hell in reality in their life. But they had this really sweet relationship that I always thought was kind of cute. And then they just, Ozzy cracked me up because he's just kind of stumbling around
on the George Bush, George Bush video. He was such a kid in that moment, and then all of a sudden you saw him where he was like, "Oh shit, I think I screwed up." He's like, all of a sudden, oh my god, What's the best song he had that was an intro song? If a team like Sandman, if it was an Ozzy Osbourne song, Crazy Train has to be it.
It's
right?
Crazy Train.
Yeah, it has
Iron
to
Man.
be it.
Yeah, or Iron Man,
Okay.
I like War Pigs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pigs would be that.
Brandon Rowe, thank you very much for what you're doing. He also helped me earlier with that interview with, of course, Tim Polasek from North Dakota State. Andrew Valade with the polls. Brandon setting up 365 Sports tonight, 10:30 on the CW. Garrett Ross, thank you with what you do every day by running the mothership. For Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak, I'm out tomorrow. I'll be playing golf with Phil Bennett, and imagine the stories I'm going to hear that I don't think I can share probably the next time I'm on the show. For you, our audience, and our great sponsors, thank you for your time. Good night, 365 Sports.